We're live on YouTube now, Chair.
Okay, I'll get going. Thank you, Maisie. Right, good evening, everybody. I am Councillor Brian Oldham. I am the Chairman of the Northampton Borough Council Planning Committee. Welcome to you all. Before I start the meeting in earnest, there's just a statement I've got to make. I have to do this all the time. It's about the recording of virtual planning committee meetings. The public have a right to record this meeting by filming or other means while it is open to the public. If members pass a resolution to exclude the public from part of the meeting, then the right to record will not apply to that part of the meeting. For that reason, if a resolution is passed to exclude the public, then for the part of the meeting to which the public do not have access, the live streaming of this meeting will be switched off and resumed if the meeting again becomes open to the public. Okay, so that's that statement. So going on to the agenda now, and before I go on to the agenda, Maisie, could you introduce to the people who are watching from the public or the speakers who's taking part in the meeting? That includes the members and the officers, please.
Yes, Chair. For the councillors, we have Councillors Oldham, Lane, Birch, Botwood, Mary Markham, Brian Markham, King, Kilby-Shaw, McCutcheon, Golby, and Chowdhury. I think that's everyone. And for officers, we have Rita Bovey, Hannah Weston, Nikki Skate, Adam Smith, and Peter Bagley.
Thank you very much.
Myself and Ed and Teresa.
Yeah, thank you. Maisie, on item 1, the apologies. Are there any?
There are no apologies, Chair.
Okay. Now the minutes committee, they've not been available in time for tonight's meeting, so we will put the minutes forward on the next meeting, which is in 3 weeks' time on the 28th. There'll be 3 lots of minutes to vote on, but that will be in 3 weeks' time. So there'll be no minutes to pass on tonight. Item 3, the deputations of public addresses. Now, I believe Councillor McCutcheon and Councillor Golby may have to leave the meeting early. So I'll just ask you, gentlemen, or anyone else who's got to leave, because I know there's another meeting going on, if you just let Democratic Services know as to when you're leaving. And I would ask you that you leave in a clean way, and when one application's been finished before another one starts. That's all I would ask. Okay. Right. Now there's declarations of interest and predetermination. Who has them? Councillor King, I see you've got your hand up.
Councillor Botwood, Councillor Mary Markham, and Councillor Kilby-Shaw and Chowdhury, Chair, are indicating.
Thank you. Right, Anna, go on. You say first.
Yeah, predetermination items 10A and 10B, St Matthew's Parade. I previously called the item in, so I'll be leaving the meeting for these 2 items.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Botwood, Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Chair. I have a personal and disclosable pecuniary interest in items 12A and 12B as a board member of Northampton Partnership Homes, and I will leave the meetings for these items.
Thank you. Councillor Markham, Mary.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I have a personal and disclosable pecuniary interest in items 12A and 12B as a board member of Northampton Partnership Homes, and I will leave the meeting for these items.
Yeah. Maisie, who else was there, please?
Councillors Chowdhury, Kilby-Shaw and Brian Markham.
Okay. Councillor Chowdhury, Naz, welcome back to the committee. Would you like to declare your interest, please?
Councillor Chowdhury, can you unmute yourself, please?
Yes, thank you. 8A, guys, it's my family's land, so I have an interest there, I guess, so I will not be taking part in that.
Right, thank you, Naz. Councillor Kilby-Shaw, Sam, yeah?
Okay, thank you, Chair. I'm a resident of Kingsthorpe, but I have no predetermination on item 8A.
No, thank you. Councillor Malcolm, Brian?
Yes, Chair. Just wanted to say I've had representations on items 10C and 10E. Just make clear I've had those representations from both objectors and people who put in favour of the application on, but I'm no predetermination. Just be clear that, but I have received those representations. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Right, as I said before I start the meeting, we have 14
Councillor Carley's indicating chair. Sorry.
Councillor Carley, Muna, yeah, sorry.
Yes, hi, hello, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to make my presence known because I didn't hear my name being called as the councillor has been present. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Muna. Thank you. Right, just backtracking slightly, we have about 13 speakers, but I think Councillor Larratt has got a plea, I think, to me. Councillor Larratt, are you there?
Sorry, just unmuting myself.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. I want to speak on item 8A. I did type out an email last night requesting permission to speak. At some stage after that, my internet went haywire and I had to restart Outlook. When I checked this afternoon, because I hadn't had any response, I looked in my sent items and the message wasn't there and it had automatically been saved to my draft. So I did actually compile an email, send it as I thought, but unfortunately due to my internet going down last night, it never got sent. So with your permission, Chair, it's not a planning application, it's only a consultation. I would beg your indulgence and be allowed to speak on item 8A if that's possible.
Well, the thing off the top of my head making this decision, I do sympathise with you, Councillor Larratt, because my internet's been down for about an hour and a half this afternoon and I was sweating because they're doing a lot of optic work around here. So I do sympathise with that. The internet's playing haywire in one or two areas. On the second point, well, because it's a consultation, it might have been different if it's actually a determination that we were making. But there is a slot available for it. Are you speaking against the recommendations, Councillor Larratt?
I most certainly am, Chair.
Right. Well, in this particular case, I'm quite prepared because there is a slot available. There's only one speaker against it at the moment. I'm quite prepared to make a special dispensation because it's a consultee application in this particular case, and I'll allow you to speak.
Thank you very much, Chair.
Okay, right. Going on, matters of urgency, there are none. So on item 6, list of current appeals, Rita, this is your report. Would you like to present it to us, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. If you turn to page 1 of the agenda, this time we have 3 decisions that came through. In fact, it's good news. All 3 appeals have been dismissed. In fact, all 3 of them, they're all related to change of use or extension to building for HIMO use. The first one is 5 to 11 Horseshoe Street. This particular building is currently being used as an HIMO, but that is an authorized use. The application came in is to provide an extension to the roof, like a mansard roof, to provide another 4 bedrooms. The application was refused by officers because the building sits in front of a listed building, which was the former All Saints School building, but currently used as a nightclub. Officers' opinion was that if with the huge extension to the front with a very bulky mansard roof will affect the setting of the listed building. So we refuse the application on that basis. And the inspector dismissed the appeal and agreed with the council that the extension will be detrimental to the setting. So that was a very good decision for us. The second one is number 5, St. Michael's Mount. This is an application again determined by officers under delegated powers. This is an application for a change of use of a dwelling house to 4 occupants. At the time, we were still operating using the previous supplementary planning document. So at the time, they stipulate that we can't have more than 15% of uses, HIMO uses within a 50 meters radius. Because this particular application worked out to be 16.4%. So the application was refused on that basis. And the inspector again agreed with the council. Fundamentally, the inspector visited the site and concluded that with a further HIMO in the area will add to negative impact, affect the character of the area. So the appeal was dismissed. And finally, the other one is number 8, Bostock Avenue. This is a change of use from a dwelling house to a HIMO for 8 occupants. For this one, officer refused this application under delegated powers again, but on highway safety grounds, but not again on over concentration. This is interesting because the inspector went out on site during the day. He found that parking was nose to tail, in the area. So his conclusion was that in the evening will be worse when everyone comes home. So he considered that the proposal will increase conflict affecting highway safety. So all 3 have been dismissed. So I'm happy to answer any question, Chair, and all the information will be on the council's website. Thank you.
Much obliged, Rita. Thank you very much. Councillors, members, does anybody got any comments or questions to ask Rita of her report?
Councillor Golby's indicating, Chair.
Councillor Golby, Matt, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I welcome that that information and the report by Rita, and it's good to see that the inspectors applying some logic and basically concurs with what we're sort of suggesting as a council. I just wondered if Rita has any idea if there'll be some consistency applied to the rest of the points down for appeal.
Through you, Chair.
Yeah.
I think for the next committee, we will have more appeals decision to be reported to you. I think it would appear that in the inspectorate now adhere to our up-to-date supplementary document as well. So there's a couple more will just come through, has been dismissed. So I will report that next time. So it looks like because we have a more up-to-date document, it seems to be in our favor at the moment. Thank you, Chair.
I'd just like to echo that. One of the things that I was happy about, Matt, was the 5 St. Michael's Mount, where it went to the over concentration limit, and at least they've upheld that this time, even though it was over 15%, but now working on 10%, as you know, so I was pleased about that. Anyone else got any comments, members, please, on Rita's report? No? All right. Thank you, Rita. Thank you for that. So item 7, other reports, there are none. So we go on to item 8, which is Northamptonshire County Council application, excuse me, which is the construction of new roads related to the Northampton Northwest Relief Road. I won't read it all out because you've all got your agenda in front of you. Nikki, I believe this is your report. Would you present it, please?
Thank you, Chair. Okay, just confirm everyone can see the screen.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay. If I just draw members' attention to the addendum, there's a couple of comments. One received from a third party raising concerns about the traffic impacts and modelling, and then a further comment received from Northamptonshire Badger Group raising concerns about the impact on badgers within the site. As we're consultee, those comments have both been forwarded to the County Council for consideration.
I can't see the addendum, Nikki.
Sorry, Chair, I haven't got the addendum. Have the members got the addendum in front of them or not? Apologies.
No, I haven't received one.
Right, apologies.
No.
Essentially, if I read the third-party comments out, the third-party comments raise concerns about continual increase in volume of traffic on Harbour Road, deficiencies in the system south of Holly Lodge Junction, resulting in southbound traffic towards the town centre backing up beyond the junction, sometimes up to and beyond the Pittsford turning during peak time. Concern about the Northampton Northwest Relief Road as a standalone project without the Northern Orbital Road, and increased congestion on Harbour Road and deterioration in air quality. Comment that the Northampton North Orbital Road is unlikely to proceed due to lack of funding to explore further option routes. If the Northwest Relief Road does proceed as a standalone project, it would need to improve traffic flows on the A508. The project's heavily weighted to relieving traffic on Harleston Road and Mill Lane, which NCC classifies lower strategic importance than Harbour Road, and suggesting that reasoning is flawed, and commenting on inconsistencies and contradictions in the traffic assessment, which fails to provide reassurance that traffic flow will not be detrimental. In terms of the Northampton Badger Group, they're generally raising concern about there being a number of badger sets within the application site, and the negative impacts of the development on those badger sets, arising from both the proposed Northampton, the Northwest Relief Road development, and nearby developments at Buckton Fields, Dallington Grange, and also development in Dallington itself, and the impact on the foraging space of badgers, advising that the developments need to be considered as a bigger picture. So apologies for not having the addendum in front of you there, Chair.
Okay, yeah. Nikki, thank you very much. Right, we now have 4 speakers on this.
Brian, sorry,
yes.
Brian, shall I do my presentation?
Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon. I do beg your pardon. Senile dementia and all that.
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
All right.
Right, so this is the application site. Members will recall we were consulted on the application for the Northwest Relief Road back last year, and it was considered at committee in December. The alterations, that the scheme has been amended slightly. The red outline has changed within the Daventry boundary and partly within Northampton Borough. So there's a slightly larger portion of the site here. And also, sorry, can members see the pointer? Let me just get my pointer. Apologies. So there's increase in the site area there, and also to the north of the site here, and also around some of the proposed junctions. So this just gives you an aerial view. Apologies, this isn't referencing the updated red outline, but it gives you an idea of the context of the site. So you've got the railway line going across the site here. This is the Dallington Grange site, application site for the SUE to the south. You've got the Brampton arm of the River Nen kind of winding up along that red line there. This line here is the that's the National Cycle Route 6 and the Brampton Valley Way. Welford Road along here. This is Brampton Road, Northampton Road, and Sandy Lane. You've got the golf courses to the west of the site there, and Harleston Firs, and Church Brampton's off to the northeast of the site there. So this is the general arrangement for the road. Just to reorientate you, the northern point is to the right hand side of this plan. So again, you've got the railway line going through here just to get your bearings. This is just here is the roundabout, which is proposed as part of the Dallington Grange development. These three areas here are burrow pits where earthworks will be excavated, and that form part of the drainage associated with the Dallington Grange development. So this is the length of the road going along here. It'll be on a raised embankment. You've got further drainage works here. This scheme differs to the previous scheme in that this is a single large drainage pond, where it's proposed to be two and a smaller pond before. Also, there's a slight amendment to the scheme where you've got a raised earth embankment here as part of amended drainage works, and a drainage channel just here. As part of the scheme, there's two new roundabouts proposed. These again have been redesigned and amended to those that you previously saw at the end of last year. So this is known as the Sandy Lane roundabout, and that's shifted approximately 40 metres to the east of where it was previously. And then you've got the Brampton Road roundabout, a new junction proposed down here. Just for reference again, this is the Brampton Valley Way route going through there. As part of the scheme, there'll be a bridge across the railway. Apologies, my pointer's going a bit mad. So a bridge across here, and then there'll be a bridge across the part of the River Nen there. So this will be a causeway road in effect. So that just shows you the more detail of the Sandy Lane roundabout, and as I say, it's been redesigned. The arms of the roundabout have been redesigned based on updated traffic modelling. So in some cases, increase in lanes approaching the roundabouts to increase the flow of traffic. And again, this is the Brampton roundabout, proposed roundabout, and again that's been slightly redesigned with slightly different lane arrangements to increase traffic flow. So this just shows you, for what you can see, this is the proposed railway bridge. That would be approximately 75 metres long and 10 metres, approximately 10 metres above existing ground levels. And this is just the section of bridge which will be going approximately here over the part of the River Nen. Again, that's approximately 30 metre span and 10 metres above ground levels. Just to show you it in context with the Dallington Grange development, this is the master plan that's been approved in principle. So this is the roundabout that I showed you to the south of the proposed North West Relief Road, the next section, which will extend in that direction roughly. And this just shows you that the red on this plan is the North West Relief Road, and the blue is showing it in context of the wider proposals for the Northampton Orbital Relief Road. And again, showing you in context of development proposed, Buckton Fields up there and Dallington Grange to the south. So in terms of highway impacts, the MPPF advises that development should only be refused on highway grounds if it would have an unacceptable highway safety impact, or the impacts on the road network would be severe. This amended scheme they have submitted a revised transport assessment, and that's based on updated modelling details from County's strategic model. And also taking into account progression with the design of roadworks and roundabouts for the Dallington Grange development, as well as updated traffic counts dating back from May last year. The submitted transport assessment advises that in terms of the North West Relief Road, there would be a reduced volume of traffic at a number of junctions by the year 2031. Those junctions are set out in paragraph 7.6 of the officer report. In terms of mitigation measures, there's a number of mitigation measures proposed off-site as well, which include traffic calming measures in the villages of Moulton and Boughton, and also junction improvements at 3 other junctions, again, as set out in paragraph 7.7 of the officer report. The transport assessment does acknowledge that there will be a number of junctions that could be adversely affected. Whilst they're not proposing to mitigate at this stage, they have suggested design potential mitigation measures for consideration in future, and it's based on, they're suggesting that those junctions are monitored, taking into account other potential transport improvements that come about from other schemes, assess the need for that mitigation in future. The transport assessment concludes that overall the scheme would net benefit to the highway network, and that any negative localised highway impacts can satisfactorily be mitigated. The transport assessment's being currently assessed by the Highway Authority. I don't as yet have their comments, but as set out in the officer recommendation, we would be seeking to that the County Council seek appropriate mitigation for the highway impacts of the scheme. In terms of air quality, environmental health are being consulted directly by the County Council. Again, they're still reviewing the information submitted. Their initial comments do say, however, that the submitted modelling does appear to be acceptable, whilst there would be some exceedances in air quality levels in the initial operation of the road. In the longer term, by approximately 2029, there would be no exceedances. So that's taking into account also improvements in terms of the quality of vehicles that are on the road as well, taking into account improvements, those and other road schemes as they come forward. The scheme in itself will divert traffic elsewhere around the town. So it's essentially, the modelling is suggesting that it will move the concentration of traffic away from existing air quality management areas. As I say, the final comments of environmental health will be reported directly to the County Council. In terms of landscape impacts, there'll inevitably be considerable landscape impact, and that was considered by committee last December. The main changes in terms of landscape impacts from this revised scheme, as I say, would be this proposed run here, which is approximately 2 metres in height, 280 metres in length. That would essentially be viewed in the context of the road, which would be on a raised embankment, and in the context of the railway. So in the overall scheme, not a significant visual impact in the context of what's around it and the Dallington Grange development to the south. In respect of ecology, a number of species have been identified on site, including bats, badgers, barn owls and otters. In respect of the concerns raised regarding the badgers, there are a number of sites, and the county ecologist is reviewing the information. They will be looking to seek mitigation in terms of the road design, so suggesting designs incorporating the input of tunnels incorporated into the design of the road so that badgers can continue to move freely. There will inevitably be an impact on some of the sets, and the idea is to design a scheme that allows mobility for the badgers. In addition, that there would be a requirement for licenses to be applied for with the relocation of any badger sets. Drainage, again, the relevant drainage bodies have been consulted directly by the County Council, and the information is reviewed by them to ensure that there's no increase in flood risk and surface water drainage arising from the development. So essentially, from the borough's point of view, or from officers' point of view, the North West Relief Road is considered a necessary piece of infrastructure to support the delivery of housing and employment within the borough, and that's recognised and supported by policies within our West Northamptonshire Joint Core Strategy. There are evidently a number of issues still being reviewed, and therefore officer recommendation is to ensure that the county seek to mitigate those issues satisfactorily. And also in the recommendation, we maintain our reference to the county giving due consideration to the impacts of the proposed development on the safeguarded form of transport route, which runs along here. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Nikki, for that detailed report. As I say, before I go on to the speakers in this particular case, for all the speakers that are speaking tonight, you only allowed 3 minutes. We have, as I say, 14 speakers, so we have to be strict on that. That's 3 minutes for each speaker. So without any further ado, I'll get on to the speakers for this particular application. I call upon Councillor Sam, or County Councillor Sam Rumans. Councillor Rumans, are you with us?
Yeah.
Right, Councillor Rumans. Sam, if you just identify yourself and in what capacity you speak, please.
Yeah, so I'm Councillor Sam Rumans. I'm the County Councillor for the Kingsthorpe North Division, and I'm also representing the views of White Hills and Spring Park Residents Association tonight.
Okay, you have 3 minutes, thank you.
Thank you. Northampton needs the right infrastructure if it wants sustainable expansion. This project will provide small improvements in some areas, but much bigger problems in others. Marginal benefits, significant negatives, unrealistic mitigations, and a fundamental flaw. The marginal benefits. In the 150 pages of detail in the transport assessment, there are some improvements, but there's not a single junction that will become free-flowing because of the effect of this road. Significant negatives. One example, the documents say that once the road is built by 2021, it will take cars up to 16.5 minutes, that's 997.4 seconds, or the time it takes a train to get from Northampton to Milton Keynes to get out of Vyse Road in Boughton onto the Harbour Road. For anyone that has ever had to go via Boughton anywhere near peak times, you will know how difficult this is already. This isn't hyperbole or exaggeration, it's the numbers in the planning documents. Unrealistic mitigations. The mitigations for this particular issue are minor, yet the documents state the wait will be reduced to 25 seconds in this case, but this just isn't plausible. There's also a section detailing a mitigation strategy called Monitor and Manage, I think alluded to earlier. The aim of this strategy is to monitor any negative impact on traffic in the area and then to mitigate against it after it's happened. It's effectively saying we don't really know what's going to happen, so we're just going to wing it. And yet the transport assessment concludes, and I quote, any negative localized impacts caused as a result of the scheme can be satisfactorily mitigated. But we have no idea if this is true. And the fundamental flaw. The documents say the benefits of to the wider road network outweigh the gridlock it will cause in Kingsthorpe. But it says that it can't build better infrastructure because too many cars will then use the Northwest Relief Road. It wants some of the cars that would use the Northwest Relief Road to use those other roads. So the Northwest Relief Road is needed to free the smaller roads from congestion, but because the Northwest Relief Road is not fit for purpose, we hope some traffic will go back and use those same roads anyway. Marginal benefits, significant negatives, unrealistic mitigations, fundamental flaw. So if the question is how do we relieve traffic pressure and provide quality infrastructure, this Northwest Relief Road cannot have been the answer. So that really begs the question of what was asked to end up here. And this is in no way NIMBYism. I guess we could call it BRIMBYism. That stands for Better Road in My Backyard. I implore you to recommend this project is not allowed to move forward in this state. So millions of pounds are not put to waste building infrastructure that will cause more jams and pollution in the suburbs of our town. Let's see a fresh project with more ambition and a longer term view of how it can help Northampton prosper in the future. Marginal benefits, significant negatives, unrealistic mitigations, fundamental flaw. Let's have a better road in our backyards. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you, Councillor Roman. And if you just remain with us in case the committee's got any questions to ask of your presentation. Committee, do you have any questions to ask of Councillor Rumans, please? Anyone indicate?
No one is indicating, Chair.
Okay. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Councillor Rumans. Thank you very much. I now call upon the Borough Councillor, Councillor Phil Larratt, please. Councillor Larratt.
Councillor Larratt, can you unmute yourself, please? We can't hear you.
Sorry, Chair, I thought I had unmuted myself.
Right.
Sorry. Mr. Chairman, I'm absolutely appalled at this report. I think it's an affront to democracy. As Deputy Leader of the Council, I have, during the past 12 months, attended numerous meetings with ROSPA, County Council officers, Borough Planning officers and others to discuss this application. ROSPA have done a hell of a lot of work to discuss and highlight the problems with this proposal. And there is not any mention of the work that they have done with regard to this proposal in this report. And I, as I say, Chair, think this is an affront to democracy. This is not a relief road for development. It's a bypass for Brampton. Always has been, always will be. There are, as Councillor Roomins, and I totally agree with what he said, there are certainly areas that are going to be damaged by this, and we haven't bottomed out the air quality issues, so we certainly shouldn't be reaching a decision on this tonight. The Harbour Road will be a problem. The junction on the Harbour Road at Vyes Road at Boughton, it's horrendous as it is, and WASPA have shown through their own traffic counts how this is going to be exacerbated by this proposal. I think as well, you know, I could go on and on, Mr. Chairman, but this is certainly not taken into account the views of the community. It does not represent the very thorough work that has been done by ROSPA using professional people. I think the issue of the roundabout at the one nearest the Windhopper is an absolute disaster. We're considering constructing a plan for future development that looks at the reopening of the Northampton to Market Harbour railway line. How much additional cost to the reopening of that line is this proposal going to add to that project? You know, you're going to have to lift the road up. Absolutely ridiculous. No thought has been given whatsoever. I think, Mr. Chairman, this is, you know, we talk about modelling. Well, talk about County Council modelling. They modelled Northgate bus station, and we all know what a farce that was. So who can say this is the modelling that has been done has been accurate? The roundabout that I'm talking about, we've got a national cycleway. There's a car park that people use to access Brampton Valley Way. That means they're going to have to cross a busy road junction. None of this has been taken into account. It is a scheme that is not fit for purpose. It is simply a Brampton bypass, and it should go back to the drawing board. I'm not saying it's not needed. Take it as far as the bottom of the Sandy Lane junction. Take it as far as that. Don't cut across the river.
Sorry. Phil, sorry, Councillor Larratt, 3 minutes is up. If you just remain with us in case the committee's got any questions to ask on your comments. Committee, do you have any comments or questions to ask of Councillor Larratt, please?
Councillor Brian Markham's indicating chair.
Right, Councillor Markham, Brian, please. Yeah, question to Councillor Larratt.
Yes, question for Phil Larratt, please. Phil, you were indicating possible alternatives. You were saying take it to somewhere else. You didn't have a chance to finish. Perhaps you can tell me where you're suggesting it finishes.
Yeah, I think it needs, as I think I said, it needs to go back to the drawing board. I'm not saying that there's a road that isn't necessary to provide access to the development, but what we desperately need is the Northern Orbital Road, and the Northern Orbital Road is the key to the whole unlocking of development to the north of the town. Now, until there's a plan for that in place, we should really be taking you know, not be developing roads that could substitute for the Northern Orbital Road, or roads that could are seen as a fix-it, so that the Northern Orbital is not a priority. And I think that's how this road is perceived. This road is perceived as an opportunity to delay and put off the Northern Orbital Road. But at the same time, it adds to the problems of the existing community and the quality of life of the existing community Therefore, I'm saying it should go back to the drawing board and something come back realistic that doesn't impact on the community, and whatever that means, whether that means moving it somewhere else or whatever. But it should also be built in the context of the Northern Orbital Road, which needs to be a dual carriageway, grade separated road from the A43 at Malton through to the A4 500 down at Harpole.
Well, thank you. And anybody else got any questions to ask of Councillor Larratt? No?
No one is indicating, Chair.
No. Right, thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Bill. Thank you. And I'll call upon Mr. Andrew Palmer, please.
Hello. Yes, I've been asked to attend this to answer any technical queries that arise from the call. So I haven't been asked to make a representation as such, but to answer technical queries as and when they may arise.
Okay, well, okay, we'll know that, notify that for when the committee are asking questions. Thank you.
Sorry, Chair.
Yeah, Peter.
Procedurally, can I ask who Mr. Palmer is representing?
Yeah, fine.
Yeah, I am the applicant's agent, so I work for WSP. So I am the project manager for the technical delivery of the Northwest Relief Road scheme and the planning application as submitted.
Right, thank you. Thank you for that, Peter.
Thank you, Mr. Palmer. And Chair, can I suggest if members want to ask Mr. Palmer questions, they should do so now, as if he has just made a presentation. He would not be able to answer questions at any stage further on in the determination of this application.
Okay, I'm quite prepared to be led by that. Committee, do you have any questions to ask of Mr. Palmer? Councillor McCutcheon, Arthur, I can see you, yeah. You got to unmute yourself, Arthur. Can't hear you, Arthur. You got to unmute yourself.
No,
Right,
can we?
you're okay now, Arthur.
Okay,
yeah,
now.
well,
Thank you for calling me, Chairman. I hadn't realised we'd have somebody from the technical people of WSP in it. Is there a line? I mean, because one of the things that the Northwest Relief Road is going to have to do is to clear across this line here. Is there any other way in which that can be done? Right. That is there a line that could be followed which would take it so that it wouldn't obstruct that corner at the Brampton Valleyway?
So this is that would not encroach upon the disused railway line, currently the cycleway. We looked at a number of locations for the Brampton Lane roundabout in the development of the scheme. What we have shown, which is an at-grade roundabout, so it's at the level of the existing ground, was considered to be the best layout from a traffic capacity perspective in terms of providing a junction in that location. I can confirm that there wasn't a there wasn't an option that was taken forward as preferred that avoided that roundabout being sat on that line. Having said that, obviously any scheme to reopen that railway in the future would have required highway works to be done to the existing Walford Road, Northampton Road, crossing that location anyway. So in the event of a scheme coming forward for the reopening of that railway line, works would have needed to be done in this location anyway. Obviously, if the junction wasn't there, you would have still needed to have raised the highway.
Right, thank you, Chairman. I think I've got this straight. Yeah.
Anyone else? I can see you, Councillor Birch. Jane, you've got a question to ask of Mr. Palmer?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I have. A lot of the research that WASPRA have done have indicated that there will be an increase in traffic down the Kingsthorpe corridor into the town centre as a result of this road. One of the continual questions that come up is about the orbital route and when that would be built. What do you have any information about the difference that the orbital route would make if it were built in the future to the traffic coming into the town centre? Will that reduce the amount of traffic and pollution coming into the town down the Kingsthorpe corridor as we look to the future? Thank you.
Yeah, in terms of the data I have to hand for me now, I wouldn't be able to say. There were some initial studies done a couple of years ago when the Northern Orbital scheme was being considered for funding. Obviously, the funding wasn't forthcoming for the Northern Orbital scheme, and from that point forward, the Northwest Relief Road was taken forward as a standalone scheme. From those studies that were done a couple of years ago, I'm sure there is data available that could be made available on request.
Okay. Right. Anyone else got any questions to ask of Mr. Palmer? Nobody indicating?
Councillor Golby's indicating, Chair.
Well, thank you, Maisie. Councillor Golby, Matt, yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Just talking about the WASPRA group, we're all quite familiar with them, and they've been mentioned a couple of times by the speakers. I just wondered, was any consideration given to the sort of data and the information that they were presenting during this application process?
Yes, I think back in spring of last year, on the as we approached the original application date in, I think it was June last year, we were in liaison with WASPRA. WASPRA had done their own traffic counts at that time. We also had done some updated traffic counts in May 2019. And in liaison with WASPRA, we confirmed that the traffic counts that each of us had done were relatively consistent. What that led to was some further work on the traffic assessment work, which went into the transport assessment addendum, which was produced in September, and has also featured in the transport assessment update that we've recently submitted.
Thank you. Anyone else got any questions to ask of Mr. Palmer? No?
No one is indicating, Chair.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Palmer. Thank you very much. Okay. And I call upon, I hope I get the pronunciation right, Srivani Bhupala, please. Mr. Bhupala, are you there?
Srivani works for me, and Srivani is a transport consultant, and was here to provide answers if there was any specific transport related queries that I was unable to answer myself. Srivani is the author of the transport assessment.
So he works in representing the same company as what you are, Mr. Palmer?
Yes, she is. Yeah. She's the transport planner for WSP.
And is present at the moment to ask any questions, answer any questions? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Well, we'll see if the committee's got any questions on the transport technicality. Committee, do you have any transport questions? Councillor King, Anna, yeah.
Only one quick question. Under 2.5, it says it's going to be a shared cycleway, footway along the entire length of the western edge of the carriageway. I don't think that's adequate at the moment, particularly when we're supposed to be addressing the active to work. Is there scope to expand that so there'll be a permanent cycleway along there as well?
Hello, Anna. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. Okay. Previously, sorry, I was muted. At this stage, I'm not sure. Like there is a permanent cycleway route going across, but there is an existing cycleway along the length of the road, so that's still going to be there. But it's permanent, I believe.
Just to pick up on
Chair, sorry, Mr. Palmer, because you registered to speak separately, you've had your opportunity to answer questions. It's a technical procedure. My apologies. These questions should only be answered by Shivani.
Based on transport.
Okay.
That's right. Okay. Has anyone got any other questions to ask Shivani, please? No? Nobody indicating, Maisie?
No one is indicating, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Srivani. Nikki, before I ask the committee for any questions to you, do you want to come back on anything that's been mentioned by the speakers?
Nothing to come back on at this stage, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, committee, then it's questions to Nikki then. Questions to Nikki, please, anyone?
No one is indicating, Chair.
Really? Okay. Well, then it's comments committee. Comments on what you've read, heard and seen. Councillor Burns, Jane, yeah. I've got you, Arthur, as well. Councillor Burns, Jane, yeah, go on.
And Councillor Lane.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, Jamie, yeah, as you. Councillor Burns, Jane, yeah.
Thank you, Chair. This scheme has been long discussed. It's been going on, it's been around for years. The relief road is needed, but I don't think it's going to do its job until the orbital route is also under construction. And I think the two working together eventually will reduce the traffic and congestion and take the transport to the north. But until we've got some sort of indication from the government about funding for the orbital route, I have my doubts that the existing plan will benefit Northampton residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McCutcheon, Arthur.
Thank you, Chairman.
You've muted yourself, Arthur. You've got to unmute yourself.
Unmute.
Oh, yeah. Okay, go on. You can hear you now. Yeah.
Right. Yes, Jane's perfectly correct. This has been going on for years. I think I made one of my first speeches about this Northwestern Relief Road in 1983. And it's quite clear that there's got to be a relief road there. There's got to be an orbital road. And it'll happen in due course. It'll have to happen in due course. It depends what agony we go through beforehand. And prolonging the agony is the idea of having a level crossing at a major junction with a railway. Now, I think that's just something we've got to lay out. That's not going to be really very useful, or indeed possibly even possible at all. So one or other has got to stop at that point. So this is a major technical problem for getting something which is desirable, the Northern Orbital Road, the Northwestern Relief Road. Yes, they both need to be done, but Phil Lara is quite correct here. It needs to go back to the drawing board yet again, and it may well involve a great deal of money. Unfortunately, he's a member of the party that's going to spend all that money.
Thank you. Councillor Lane, Jamie?
Well, I agree with what the other speakers have just said. I strongly object to this. I think it's going to cause great disruption around the Kingsfield corridor down the Harbour Road. It's a complete waste of time and money. And as we said, it's got to go back to the drawing board and come back with a better plan. The reason wasn't been heard, and I think that needs to be in the report. Councillor Larratt said we've not got the full picture at all.
Thank you, Councillor Lane. Jamie, anyone else got any comment?
Councillor Kilby-Shaw, Councillor Brian Markham, Mary Markham and Councillor Golby.
Okay, I'll try to remember that. Councillor Kilby-Shaw, Sam, yeah.
Okay, yes, thank you, Chair. I think I'm in agreement with everyone that an orbital road is needed. However, I'm not satisfied that sufficient air quality mitigations have been made. We do have a problem with pollution in Northampton from congestion, and I believe that this will just be moving the problem from one area to another. I don't think we can support this if air quality considerations aren't taken fully into account, and we need to do more to actually make progress to improve it. So I think that we need to have the plan in its entirety put into place rather than piece by piece, so that we can put the correct mitigations in place. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Markham, Brian?
Yes, Chair. We would all like to see everything happening. We would like to see a northwest orbital route. We would like to see the Brampton Valley Railway reopened, whether it's trams, railways or whatever, connecting us that way. We all expect housing at Dallington Grange, important homes, and at Harlesford Road end as well, all to be developed. But it's not all going to happen at the same time. I agree. Phil Larratt indicated the problems we're going to have with this new junction, if it's built for this Northwest Relief Road. That's going to cause problems for the reopening of the Brampton Valley line. However, when is that going to happen, if at all? And do we delay this important link for the new housing on Dallington Grange while we wait for that? Or do we delay this whilst we wait for the orbital route to be built? I don't think we can. We just go back to the recommendations as they are in the report, and I think the recommendations are acceptable. In particular, we have always made it clear that as well as this road, other things have got to happen if and when and as soon as possible. But just because those things are not yet happening, I don't think is reason to not give some relief by providing this important link, and it's only part of the problem. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Markham, Brian. Thank you. Councillor Markham, Mary?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'm in agreement with all of my colleagues on the Planning Committee. I mean, throughout the presentation, so much depends on other schemes that might come forward, with the answer might come forward. Very, very little benefit. I'm actually surprised that this is before us in the format it's in, and the air quality dependent on the upgrade of vehicles in times to come. I have to say that I agree with absolutely everything that Councillor Larratt and Councillor Rumans presented in their reports, and under no circumstances could I support this.
Thank you. Who else was there, Maisie? Did you somebody else?
Councillor Golby.
Councillor Golby, Matt, apologies. Yes, Matt?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I know this has been talked about for an awful long time, and it is very controversial in part, and I don't disagree with some of the points the likes of Councillor Rumans and Councillor Larratt made. However, I think I have to agree with Councillor Brian Markham in that there's an awful lot of development set to go around this area. Indeed, a lot has already started, and we need some more infrastructure to help support that. And if we don't deliver on this particular road, I think it will make the whole area around that, including some of the points in Kingsthorpe, a lot worse than it could be if it did happen. So there's a question of balance here. We've talked about timing, the delivery of housing numbers, whether or not the orbital is going to be built. And I think if you actually look at the recommendations that are before us this evening, they do seek reassurance around things like mitigation and the impact on the different areas. So I'd be inclined to support the recommendation, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Golding, Matt. What I've got to say is I've been on it for years about both these roads, but they both have to go in tandem. I do share Councillor Larratt's point of view. One's no good without the other, really. Some of the points that's been made, perhaps you might need to come in here, Nicky or Peter. Can't they be mentioned in because we are the consultees, so can't we mention these as strong feelings?
Yeah, absolutely, Chair. If the committee was minded to add to the comments raised in the no objection in principle, you could say that the Borough Council encourages the County Council to consider the early delivery of the Northern Orbital, for example, which I've heard a couple of councillors mention. And we could also emphasise the question of air quality, although that is already raised in the first comment under the recommendation to approve.
It's the terminology, no objection in principle. I've got no objection in principle with these two roads. I'm like Arthur McCutcheon, Councillor McCutcheon. I've been going on for about years, but they both need to be there. And the fact of the matter is, they're probably not there in the right. One's no good without the other. I said that in December when we had it in front of us then. One's no good without the other. And I actually strongly say that the North Orbital Road is one thing that's being delayed, but I would strongly urge that this doesn't get delayed any more than is necessary. But as Councillor Golby says, and Councillor Markham, we do need these roads. But I think the points that's been made should be made quite strongly by the committee and some of the speakers to say no objection in principle, but these things need to be adhered to or need to be looked at, what's been raised at. I know you've got to summarise that, but I think that's what we need to put to the County Council, that these are the heartfelt comments that some of the worries and concerns that the committee have. I think they can't go unregistered. So no objection in principle, okay, but there are certain things that's still not happening that should happen. They both got to go in tandem. I know it might be a money matter, but that don't make any difference. One's no good without the other, in my opinion, and I've been going on this for years. Anyway, that's me. So can we put some of these? Peter, yeah, come on.
Yeah, if I could just clarify then, if the committee wished to amend the recommendation, it would require somebody to propose that and then a vote on that. However, before you go into that, if I could just clarify a couple of issues. Members aren't considering the proposal for the orbital tonight. This is part of the road network. It is linked to highway development. So please, when you make your decision, if you could just be mindful of what we're asking you to consider tonight. And if I can also clarify the issue about the reuse of the railway line, we have discussed this issue with Network Rail, and that has not stopped them doing further consideration on the viability of reopening that line. So that they certainly have not felt there's any technical issues which would prevent that. But so now, Chair, it's up to you to committee to decide if they want to amend the recommendation or alternatively move a different recommendation.
Well, that's the thing. Committee, you've got to be clear on this. Do you want to amend the recommendation, what's put there? But we need to be clear on what we're amending. Amending on what the points that's been raised. Councillor Botwood, Alan, you got your hand up. You got to unmute, Alan. You got to unmute yourself, Alan. That's it. No, you've gone back again. That's it. You're okay now.
Okay. Oh, thanks, Maisie. I do question. I appreciate what everybody's saying, but there is still this question, can one thing happen without the other? The chances of them both happening simultaneously seem pretty remote to me. I mean, as an example, we've got a bit of road in Upton that's been there, dual carriageway, for 7 years, never been used. Not connected up to anything. But, you know, it is there, it will get done. And I think as long as everybody's mindful of that, you know, we've got to do something, because if we don't do anything, we're going to be here in 10 years' time.
Well, what we need is now is a recommendation so that people are clear on what we're actually saying. Peter, you were talking about the amendment side of it.
Yeah, from the comment, thank you, Chair. From the comments I've heard this evening, I think a third note under the no objection in principle, which would then say Northamptonshire County Council be strongly urged to consider the delivery of the Northern Orbital in order to maximise the benefits of both schemes on the highway network.
And also the mitigation of the air quality as well, that's been mentioned.
That one is already covered in the first ground.
Already in.
Yeah.
So that, based on what Peter said, committee, on that, a proposal for what Peter has just said, the third objection comment in principle, it's a third comment urging the county council. Councillor McCutcheon, Arthur, you've got your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Yes, the amendment, or at least the additional point to the two that are already there, should be that we do not object in principle, but that it must be made very much better in terms of the line of the railway and the the crossing of that line by the new road there, so that's got, whether that will require a consideration of the orbital road at the same time, or at least part of the orbital road at the same time, then that should be included in that.
Right. I think we can add that in, Peter.
Chair, the issue of the conflict with the safeguarded railway line is already covered in the second point.
I'm just looking at that.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, we've been thrashing this through. We do need these roads, and we've got to start with one, I suppose. But based on what Peter said, adding a third rider into this under the no objection in principle, but are we all happy with that, to add these strong points in?
Chair, Councillor Brian Markham is indicating.
Councillor Markham, Brian?
Chair, I'm happy with what Peter's suggested as the third point, although I would like to add to that in addition to the comment about the Northwest Orbital Road, something like that, we also request the County Council to work with Network Rail and others on bringing forward the reopening of the Brampton Valley line again in the future. Just, and on that basis, I would be happy to propose the amended recommendations. Thank you.
This is okay. I just want to be have clarity to what people are voting on and what we're putting in.
Chair, if I may,
Peter.
I think that is already covered in the second point on the shapes. And remember, we are commenting on a planning application the county is going to determine. So we shouldn't really be making that subject to them doing other work that's not related to this development. However, I think the indication about the strong support for the orbital as part of the highway network would be a valid comment to make on this current application.
Well, it goes without saying, that's what I feel. Anyway, I've been on about it to say I'm not going to keep repeating myself. But anyway, so.
Councillor King's indicating, Chair.
Hannah, Councillor King, yeah.
Yeah, I'd support what we've said there. I think it'd be a real hard shame to lose 6,600 houses and the potential to 3,000 people seeking new employment, especially after the pandemic that we will be coming out of, hopefully, at some point. Something I'd like to really add in there, I don't know if Peter was already included, is about the greenest work, more active to work, because at the time this was done, it probably wasn't such a big thing on the radar. So can we just make sure something in there is put in as well, please?
Peter, before I go to the vote, because we need to go to the vote, what any comment on that?
I think that could be covered as an additional comment in the first comment. So we're talking there about active travel, and if anybody is minded to propose this and second it, then we could also make sure we run the final wording past yourself, Chair, before this goes out.
Well, yeah, but fine. But okay, just for clarification, Peter, read it what you think we should be on the amended things with the points that's made, so the committee are clear on what we're asking them.
Okay, so I think it would be no objection in principle. The first ground on your papers would be changed to make a reference to active travel. The second ground would remain the same, and there would be a third ground to strongly encourage the County Council to bring forward the development of the Northern Orbital in order to achieve improvements to the highway network scheme resulting from both schemes being delivered at some point in the future.
Right, thank you. Now, do I have a proposition from the committee that we accept that amended, those amended comments of no objections in principles with those added riders in it? Do I have a proposition? Councillor Birch, Jane, yeah. Do I have a seconder?
I'd be prepared to second.
Councillor Russell, Catherine, thank you. All those in favour of the amendment that Peter's outlined, please, show of hands.
Nine hands in the air, Chair.
9. Those against? I can see Councillor Mark Mary, Councillor Lane, 2. Yeah, well, 2 against.
3.
3 against. So there's a 1 abstention. Councillor McCutcheon.
1 abstention.
So it's approved, and those amended comments that Peter's outlined, please. Peter, as long as you subject, you let us know, let me know what those are, so you know that's what's going forward.
Absolutely, Chair. We'll agree those with you tomorrow.
Sorry, Chair. I just want to double check the count, but I think it's the first is 8 because Councillor Chowdhury is not here, is he?
I don't know. He was. Has he gone?
Should be 12 members. Yes, he has determined. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pardon? What was that? Oh, he declared an interest. So of course.
Yeah. So it should be 8. I don't know whether people can show it has to be 8.
8 for, 3 against, and 1 abstention.
Yeah, Chair.
3 objects.
Excuse me, Chair.
Yes, Peter.
Chair, I think just in the interests of being able to make transparent decisions, could we ask those in favour of the proposal to show their hands again, please? Okay, Maisie, how many have you got?
8.
That's right. And there's 3 against. I know they were. And there's 1 abstention, which was Councillor McCutcheon. Yeah. That makes the 12, because Councillor Chowdhury's out of the room. Okay? Somebody talk to me. Yeah. So, as I say, it's approved with those amendments, those strong amendments of 8 for, 3 against, and 1 abstention. Okay? And Peter, you'll liaise with me so that we make sure we've got those points covered. Yeah.
Will do, Chair. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much for that. Well, that was well and duly thrashed out. Now we move on to, well, there's no item 9. There's nothing. So we now move on straight on to which is Northampton Borough Council applications, which now we are determining under item 10, which item 10A is 51 St Matthew's Parade, and in conjunction as well, though they are separate, 53 St Matthew's Parade, for a change of use from a dwelling house class C3 to a house in multiple occupation for 8 occupants. This, I believe, is your report. Adam, would you like to present it, please?
Thank you, Chair. This application and the next agenda item were both considered at the May the 19th Planning Committee and originally sought planning permission for change of use from 5-bed houses to 10-occupant HIMOs. Members, however, raised concerns regarding the number of occupants, and the applications were both deferred to allow negotiations to take place to try to seek a reduction in the number of occupants. The application and the next agenda item have now both been reduced from 10 to 8 occupant HIMOs with an additional communal lounge provided in each property. For the benefit of the new members, I will quickly recap the details of the application. So the application site is located to the southeast of the Kingsley Local Centre, and it's diagonally opposite the Tesco Express on the Kingsley Parade. It has rear access off of Oakwood Rise through here, and the HIMO concentration within the 50-metre radius is 2%, so well within the 10% threshold. This is the front elevation of the property here. Prior to converting to a dwelling about 10 years ago, it previously formed part of the Parkside Nursing Home. There are presently dwellings to either side, although this property here is the next application on the agenda. And then there's a ball gown shop and a hairdresser's further down here. Here we have a picture inside the property. This is the current open plan living space, which will get subdivided to form a bedroom this side and a new communal lounge at this side. This is the kitchen. This would be reconfigured and changed as part of the project. It would still be a kitchen, but it would have additional facilities and appliances. So this is just the existing situation. And again, we have an existing upper floor rear bedroom. And here we have the outdoor amenity space to the rear. This is the existing floor plans. You can see it's quite a large property. It's got 3 floors and a basement. Has 5 bedrooms on the upper floors and 3 bathrooms. So here is the proposed plans, and sort of the key change from the last one. You can see this was a bedroom before. It's now a communal lounge. Just to run through the facilities so it's clear, there's we've got the communal lounge, a single bedroom, and sort of the large kitchen at the back. Then there's a downstairs toilet. Then at first floor level, there's a bedroom again here in white, and a 3rd bedroom back in the white. And this blue one here is a shared bathroom, and this blue one here is an ensuite serving just this bedroom. And then in the upper floor, there's a shared bathroom between 2 bedrooms. To confirm, private sector housing have assessed the facilities and advised that the room sizes, kitchen, communal and bathroom facilities are all acceptable for an 8-person HIMO. To conclude, the addendum includes a summary of the comments from the applicant, which essentially flag up that the number of occupants has been reduced from 10 down to 8. And to confirm, the officer recommendation is to approve subject to conditions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Adam. We have one speaker on this application committee, with the same one on the next one. Caroline Mays, please. Caroline, are you with us? No? Caroline not with us?
She is in the meeting with us, Chair. I think Maisie's just trying to unmute her.
I don't know if she's there, Chair. She's not responding.
Oh, hello, sorry.
There we are.
Caroline, is that
I'm
you?
here. Sorry, my signal's really patchy. Yeah, sorry, my signal's very patchy. It just completely dropped out at that moment.
Right.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we are talking about 51 St Matthew's Parade, and I suppose your comments will be very similar about 53 as well.
Yes, yes, they will, yeah.
Anyway, on this particular one, if you'd identify yourself, Caroline, in what capacity you speak, and then you'll have 3 minutes, please.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for having me again. My name is Caroline Mays, and I'm a close neighbour of the property, and I'm speaking on behalf of my my own family and my elderly next door neighbour and her family, and we're speaking against the application.
Okay, you have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. I last came to the planning committee in May when this was heard, and spoke against the applications in May. I don't want to go over all the details of everything again, but a lot of the issues are still relevant. The reduction of 2 occupants in each property somewhat alleviates our concerns relating to interior overcrowding. But we do have still concerns that the 2 properties combined are still an overdevelopment, which is not in keeping with the local area. This is particularly pertinent considering this application has an identical application next door, meaning that 16 people are living in very close proximity with very little outside space available to them. There are also still the issues that I raised in the previous planning committee that I'd like to be taken into consideration relating to the additional pressure of parking in the local area, which has been a problem for a long time and obviously will be exacerbated by this, and also the volume of traffic, bearing in mind this is a very busy main road into Northampton town centre. Can you still hear me okay?
Yes, fine. Yes, fine.
Brilliant, thank you. In recent weeks, the garage of number 51 St Matthew's Parade has been used to break up cars and sell the parts on social media. This garage is unlicensed for scrapping cars, and this sort of activity has not been mentioned in the planning application. The car scrapping has also caused an environmental risk because engine fluid has been leaking out of the garage into the shared access road. And this morning, there were also car parts fly tipped in the street near the property. With this development in mind, we've got serious concerns that the current supervision and management of 51 St Matthew's Parade is not adequate. And we urge the planning committee not to approve this application while this car breaking and fly tipping is ongoing. Thank you. That's everything I have to say.
Caroline, just before I open the questions from the committee to you, I take it your comments will be very similar on 53. So
they will, yes, not the garage issue, but the other comments.
Okay, thank you. Well, anyway, committee, have you got any questions to ask of Caroline, please?
Councillor Brian Markham's indicating.
Thank you, Councillor Markham. Brian, yeah.
Yes, Chair. If I could ask Caroline, irrespective of the planning application, are you aware of any action, or has it been reported that these car breaking activities? And as you say, there's probably as well as traffic and disturbance, possibility of serious environmental damage. Is Caroline aware of action being taken by the council on this?
Yeah, it's been. I don't know about action being taken, but it has been reported to the appropriate people.
Okay, thanks very much. Anyone else got any questions? Caroline, I just have to say that we have to vote and judge the 2 applications on their own merit. So I don't have to
Yeah.
call you again unnecessarily. Have you got anything? I'll allow you to speak on 53 if you've got anything different to add. Well, I know you mentioned about the garage is not affected on this.
Yes.
But to save time.
That's right.
Have you got anything to add that's different to 53 than 51?
No, the concerns we have for 51 are the same as for 53, except for the garage.
So if you don't mind, there's no point in me calling you for 53, so the committee can deliberate on both, and you've made the relevant points. Are you happy with that?
Yes, I'm happy with that. Thank you.
Righto. Thank you, Caroline. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, committee. Any questions to ask of Adam? Anything you want to come? Sorry, Jane. Sorry, Councillor Birch, Jane. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. I don't know if Adam has the answer to this, but what are your thoughts about the activities in the garage in 51?
It's a separate matter, and I'll bring that up with the planning enforcement team tomorrow when in normal working hours. But yeah, it would be a separate matter. It'd be a different use. So this application is just the high mow use that we're considering.
Okay. Right. So there's no any more questions to ask of Adam.
Councillor Brian Markham's indicating, Chair.
All right. Councillor Markham, Brian, yeah.
Yeah, if I could ask Adam, without looking back at the plan, is the garage that's been used for these, say, alleged activities, is that actually part of the site of this application?
It is part of the application site, but it's not proposed as a separate sort of garage business use. It's just within the red edge of the application site.
Well, Adam, would you? I'm trying to condense the time here without doing any injustice to either application. But are you likely to be saying anything different on your presentation for 53 St Matthew's Parade? I'll make sure the committee deliberate on them both independently.
There's a slight different floor layout, so I could just briefly show you that and also talk you through the concentration implications if they were both allowed.
Yes, I mean, committee, I'm quite happy to let Adam jump into item 10B for the sake of deliberating on both, but we've got to deliberate them on individually. Are you happy with that? That we get on with 10B as well, let Adam do his presentation? Yeah? Okay. Right, go on then, Adam. This is now on 10B, of course.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So this is 10B. So essentially, it's the same similar application proposal. It's been amended from 10 to 8. It's the site next door to the left when we're looking from the front, and if both were to be permitted, it would bring a total concentration of 4% within the threshold. It's the next door property, so it's this one, whereas the previous one was the one over here. A couple of photographs inside. It's fairly similar inside, and again, the existing layout is similar. The proposed layout does differ a little, as I sort of touched upon. It still has the same communal lounge, single bedroom and kitchen, but rather than just a toilet downstairs, this is a shower room. And at the first floor, previously it had an ensuite in here and a bathroom here with a bedroom in this part. This one, it no longer has an ensuite, it just has a shared bathroom at first floor and then a shared shower room second floor. There's also the addendum, which the applicant has essentially highlighted the same points that they've reduced the scheme following the comments of members. That's all I'd like to say. Thank you, Chair.
Well, thank you, Adam. As I said, committee, I don't want to confuse you or anything like that. I'm just saying so that you can judge them both, but independently. If that don't make sense, I know, but that's what I'm asking. So any questions that you wish to ask of Adam on 51 and 53 is okay by me. If you find there's anything different, Councillor Mark and Brian asked about number 51. Councillor McCutcheon, Arthur, you got a question?
Councillor Russell as well, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you. Arthur? Arthur, you like a silent movie? Can't hear you. Okay. Got to unmute yourself, Arthur. Can we get some help to that's it. You're on now, Arthur. Carry on.
Thank you. Could I just say I thought I'd placed earlier when I was reading the notes that there is in fact a condition which says that this is for 8 only, and that is conditioned. Because I think it's very important that we should say that is conditioned. Ah, yes. Condition number 3 has got that put in black and white. And so I think that needs to be made firm before we actually consider it. Yeah.
I think it's on both applications, actually, Arthur.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Somebody else? Anybody else got a question to ask?
Councillor Russell, Chair.
Oh, I beg your pardon. Yeah, Catherine. Forgive me, Catherine. Councillor Russell.
That's all right. That's all right.
Thank you.
Adam, just to
Russell, you're on mute.
Just to go back to the second application, the toilets and bathrooms and showers rooms in the second application, am I right in saying that there's a shower room on the ground floor, a shared bathroom on the first floor, and a shared bathroom on the second floor? So for 8 people, they've actually reduced the amenity in that house.
It was the same as when it came to a committee last time. It's the same number, and it does meet the licensing and the planning.
Yeah.
Planning document set out how many shared bathrooms you should have per number of occupants, and it meets the guidance that was published late last year. So
I thought one of the bedrooms had an ensuite as well.
On the other application, one of the bedrooms does benefit from an additional ensuite, and so it does go beyond what that they need to do. But the second one that we just ran through, which is why I wanted to show you so you could see that there are slight differences between them. It relies on a shared bathrooms per floor, so each floor has got a bathroom and a toilet on each floor.
Shared bathroom and toilet.
Shared bathroom, yeah.
Thank you.
But just to clear that one, Adam, but there's less people sharing the same facilities. Would that be right?
No, there's less facilities on the second one because the second one of the rooms that the first one has an ensuite on. So, but they provided a bigger bathroom on this one, so it is a larger bathroom, but there is slightly less bathroom, but it would still meet the guidance that we recently adopted.
Well, thank you. Anyone else got any questions of Adam, please?
No one is indicating, Chair.
Thank you, Maisie. Committee, it's down to comments now. I will accept the comments in as a duet, if you like, but we have to vote on them independently. But if there's anything you want to say on particularly one against the other, please do so. Councillor McCutcheon, Arthur, yeah.
Thank you, Chairman. I've looked at these sites twice now, once for the previous meeting, and I would say that these are large buildings capable of doing the business, and that a limitation of 8 would be a very appropriate size for them. There is no grounds in which we can regard this as being objected to on parking grounds, certainly not on the grounds of the points that have been made in other applications for HIMOs. And so I think we need, since it falls within the density that we are looking for of 10%, that this is a lawful application and that we should vote for it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else got any comments, please? Councillor Markham, Brian.
Only to say I think this is a welcome reduction of both. I'd say on both a welcome reduction in the number of people and as Arthur says, these buildings are easily large enough to take that number of residents. In fact, there were 5 bedrooms, so there could have easily been 8 people living there in the past. So I propose that we accept this recommendation, and if we can at the same time accept the other recommendation and to get on with it, Chair.
Well, that's fine, but we have to vote on both of them individually, Brian, I understand. Anyone else got any comments before I do go for the vote?
Councillor Russell.
Councillor Russell, Catherine, yeah.
I was very pleased to see that the numbers had dropped from 10 to 8. And I still feel a bit queasy, to be honest, at that number of people in the same property who aren't related. I understand that the necessity to offer these properties, and I just hope that they live up to their licensed agreement and that nobody else is going to be living in the cellars either. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you. Anyone else got any comments before I go for the vote? No? Right. We have to vote on them individually, committee. So we're looking at 51 St Matthew's Parade first. So the officer's recommendation, and I do appreciate the applicant taking on board what we said previously. So we're looking at the officer's recommendation is that we approve this application as is outlined. Do I have a proposition? Councillor McCutcheon, Arthur, a seconder? Councillor Lane, Jamie, thank you. All those in favour? Talk to me, Maisie.
I think we've got 11, Chair. We're just doing a double count.
Okay, I thought your abacus had broke down, but all right, you carry on with it.
Please keep your hands raised, councillors.
Ten, Chair.
10. Right. Do we have any against? No?
No hands are raised.
Any abstentions?
No, there's none.
So 10. So somebody must have left then. The meeting.
Councillors Golby and Chowdhury have left. Councillor King's in the waiting room.
Right. So that makes sense. So it's unanimous then in that respect. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. That's fine. That's fine. Okay. Now we come on to 10B committee. Same thing. Accept the officer's recommendation that we approve this application. 10B, 53 St Matthew's Parade. Proposer, Councillor McCutcheon, seconder, Councillor Markham. Brian, yeah. All those in favour? Show of hands, please, again.
Unanimous, 10 hands, Chair.
Thank you very much, Maisie. Thank you. Thank you, committee. So can somebody let Councillor King back in, please?
I've readmitted Councillor King.
Right. Councillor McCutcheon, Arthur, before I go on to 10C, when will you have to be leaving? Because you express you might have to leave early.
Yes, it would be appropriate if I did that now, Chairman. Thank you.
That's what I wondered. Okay, thank you very much, Arthur. Thank you. Thank you. Right, so we're now down to item 10C, committee, which is page 51 on your agenda. And this is demolition of existing bungalow at 486 Kettering Road and redevelopment of site to provide new care home, class C2, between 486 and 492 Kettering Road. Adam, this is your report. Would you be kind enough to present it, please?
Thank you, Chair. The application proposes a 56-bed care home on the site of the Cedarwood care home, which you can see over here, and an existing bungalow at 486 Kettering Road. It's in the Parklands ward, and it's located close to local facilities on Coppice Drive, which are just off the screen at the top over here. Here we have an aerial photograph of the site, and you can see the existing care home and the footprint of a previous extension that was permitted but not constructed, all of which have recently been demolished and the site has been cleared. This is the existing bungalow here, which is also proposed to be demolished as part of the application to make way for the new care home. It would leave a run of 3 properties in this stretch of the Kettering Road before you get to Squires Walk here. And these properties you'll see on the slides later, but they all have different designs. This one's 2-story flat roof. This has got, you'll see when we come to the slides. Then opposite the site, there are bungalows to this side of Kettering Road, and there are also 2 bungalows to the rear of the site on Squires Walk, which are set at angles slightly in the plots. And then over here to this side, we have the Cynthia Spencer Hospice. I've got a few photos, so I'll try and move through them fairly quickly. This is looking across the frontage of the site. You can see the trees on the front along here. A number of them are covered by a tree preservation order. And also there are a number of high quality trees running along the walk to Eastfield Park to the side of the site. Here's looking back towards the site now. The site's sort of on the side over here, and you can see the high quality trees along the frontage. Here we have, this is the existing bungalow that would be demolished. It's got quite a different feature in the street scene. It's got quite a deep garage on the front, which is hidden behind this boundary treatment. And then this is the neighbouring house that would be retained. So it's not part of the application site, with a garage to the side and the 2-story house here, and a cedar tree in the background. And then again, this is the same house that's being retained, and you can see the different sort of styles along the street. This has got the hipped roof, this has got a flat roof, and this has got gabled over here with structures in the front gardens. This is looking across from inside the site from the bungalow garden side bit of the bungalows. You can see looking across, it's been cleared, ready for development. Just make out the roofs of the bungalows on Squires Walk at the back. This is in the garden of the bungalow, looking back towards the bungalow, and there's the neighbouring house over there. And this is at the back of the bungalow that's going to be knocked down. Just looking over, you can see the properties on Squires Walk behind. Okay, so this is the proposed site plan. It shows the proposed care home. The existing bungalow to be demolished is in this area here, over here. The new care home, it would have a similar setback to the sort of prevailing run of properties along here, and it's been designed to be broken up into 3 blocks to try and break the massing up, and then it steps forward at the end of the run. The building and the parking spaces were arranged to try and retain the protected trees and the high quality trees to the front of the site. Also, that the care home would be set in from the rear boundary of the site, and it's also set in from the side boundary, or there is a bin store here, sort of partly on the footprint of the existing bungalow. On the request of Highways, the site would only be served by 1 access point. The existing care home, which was over here, had a coachway drive, but Highways have sought a single access point to serve this development. The application originally, there was a pre-application inquiry, and they thought a 66 care home on this site, but the numbers were reduced to 56 to try and improve the parking balance, with a total of 19 spaces proposed under this application, which Highways advise is acceptable. Moving on to the elevations, you can see they've used here are the 3 blocks to try and break up the massing rather than have one large building. To the right here, you can see they've started with 2.5 building, with more of a sort of dwelling house design to try and tie in with the neighbouring house that's being retained. That was at White House with the garage, and then a house set over here. And it steps up to a central full 3-story, although there is a floor running all through the building, which is connected via a walkway. And then it steps back down to 2.5 again. So it's got 2 2.5s and then a full 3-storey in the middle. This is the side next to the house on the Kettering Road. And you can see it's got a blank. This is the flank, direct flank. That side's blank at first floor level. And there's a rear projection on it, which goes back towards Squires Walk. And there's only one window shown here, and that would serve a corridor and is proposed to be obscure glaze. And you can also see how the scale of it steps down in height towards. I've got the floor plans. I've got all the plans, but I'll just give you a quick run through. If we start with the ground floor plan, you've got the entrance coming in here with a manager's office and reception. There's a cafe here, 2 dining rooms and a lounge. And they also include spa rooms. You can probably maybe make out from this plan, all the bedrooms are en-suite facilities. Moving up, this is up to first floor. And again, each floor has its own dining area and its own lounge. And this floor also has extra facilities. It has a communal salon and a cinema room at this end. And again, moving up, this is in the sort of 3-storey bit here, and in the roof spaces at the sides and at the back. This again, we've got dining, we've got a small lounge, and then there are staff sort of facilities such as there's a laundry, and the main kitchen is over here at the front. The block plan, I think, helps show the blocks. You've got the smaller dwelling housing style one that steps up to the 3-storey, steps back down to the back, and back down to 2.5-storey over here. And then this is a plan which attempts to show some of the previous approvals on the site of the care home site. It's got quite a long, complex planning history, which is sort of covered in the report. But essentially, this is the bungalow here. So this isn't part of the previous applications for the care home. So you can see the bungalow there and its relationship to the neighbour and how it sort of sits behind it. But in terms of, there have been various permissions, including this pink dotted line here is a part 3-storey, part 2-storey flat that was allowed, block of flats that was allowed on the site. The blue is a care home extension that was previously allowed. And then the green sort of dotted ones you can see here, there was a 10-house scheme allowed, with semi-detached on the front, and then a couple of backland houses, including a house that went closer to the rear boundary, 2-storey level, than the proposed development, which is shown here in grey. I've included the addendum in the slides, and the addendum details that a further 5 objection letters have been received. These predominantly repeat or expand upon the concerns previously summarised in the committee report, and it's highlighted that neither Highways nor Environmental House raise objections to the proposal. Also, following the addendum being published, a statement has been received from a local resident in support of the application. This statement welcomes the employment generation and the benefit to the perspective of the Kettering Road, but it urges further consideration regarding parking and traffic generation. And just before committee restarted, we also got a further additional objection received, which reiterated the concerns previously submitted in the report. However, and to finish, the officer recommendation is to approve subject to conditions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Adam. Well, we have 5 speakers on this. I'll call them as in the order that I've written them down. Can I have Mr. Robin Brown, please?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can, Mr. Brown. Good evening. I wonder if you'd be kind enough to identify yourself and in what capacity you speak, please.
Yeah, my name is Robin Brown. I live at number 7 Squires Walk, that is overlooked by the proposed development.
Okay, thank you. You have 3 minutes, Mr. Brown. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I object to the size of the development and the lack of parking provision, and refer to the paragraph numbers in your agenda report. 7.5 refers to domestic scale buildings, 5.6 metres to eaves, and not institutional buildings up to 9 metres to eaves as proposed. 7.8 suggests the southern block would have the proportions of a large dwelling house. Such a house would have 13 ensuite bedrooms, a cinema and a hairdressing salon spread over 3 floors. 7.13, I can just contest this statement for the following reasons. The drawings do not reflect the current footprint of number 7 Squires Walk, and the view from the kitchen dining area does actually face onto the proposed development. The conservatory from number 8 also faces onto the development. The two-storey dwelling referred to was aligned southwest to northeast, so the adjacent properties were not overlooked. The proposed development extends over 3 floors and has an internal area of almost 3,000 square meters, that is almost 3 times greater than the previously approved extant proposals. I'm showing you a copy, if you can see it, of a sketch that I've done. Let me just zoom back out a bit on that. To illustrate the inappropriate size and scale of the building and its overbearing effect on the local properties. I'll move on to the Chronicle and Echo reported at a planning meeting last year for Highfield House and Kettering Road. Councillor Arthur McCutcheon said it was a good use of the site, but it was too large for a care home. The Cedarwood site is only approximately 18% greater than the Highfield site. 7.20, county planning parking standards indicate 19 spaces would be required for visitors alone, with no provision for staff, particularly at changeover, residents of the home, ambulances and delivery vehicles, etc. Sorry, I'm running into problems here. Seem to have a bit of a breakdown. The suggestion the total number of 19 spaces would be sufficient is woefully inadequate, and the fact that there was a perceived shortfall previously should not promote the lowering of standards now. I have grave concerns that any overflow would increase parking on the Kettering Road and surrounding streets. Traffic movement calculations use the former care home to offset some of the traffic generated by the current proposals to give a change of condition, a net change of condition. I can test this as there was no traffic generated from the care home site since 2014 when the old care home closed. Refuse collection vehicles will have to traverse some 32 metres on site, significantly greater than the recommended maximum of 20 metres. Coupled with this, it would be an area where elderly pedestrians could be present. Overcrowding of the parking on the site could result in large vehicles reversing out onto the busy Kettering Road, which would create a major hazard. I therefore seriously question whether this is a suitable development for this site, whether the site is suitable for a development of this size. However, should the scheme be restricted to, say, 2 floors, it would reduce the capacity, lessening the impact of the massive building and go a long way.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Sorry, Mr. Brown.
Closing.
3 minutes is up. Sorry about that.
Okay. Thank
If
you
you
very
just
much for your
remain,
time.
if you just remain with us in case the committee have got any questions to ask of you, please.
By all
Committee,
means.
do you have any questions to ask of Mr. Brown?
No one is indicating, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
And I call upon Mohammed Azhar, please. Is Mr. Azhar there? Is he in a waiting room anyway?
He's in the meeting. He's just starting his video, Chair. He's unmuted himself. I think he might be having problems.
Well, we'll move on. I'll go back to him. If he's sorted his problems out, I'll go to the next speaker, Maisie, which is Councillor Mike Hallam. Councillor Hallam.
Good evening, Chairman.
Good evening, Mike. If you just introduce yourself and in what capacity you speak, please.
Councillor Mike Hallam. I'm the Borough and County Councillor for Parklands. I'm speaking in that capacity. I do live relatively close to the site itself on Spinney Hill Road, so I'm not a direct neighbour, but I am relatively close in the vicinity.
Thank you, Councillor. You have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. And it may seem a strange thing to say when you're registered to speak against a proposal, but I think that the people around this site are not actually totally against this proposal per se. On the contrary, I think we're actually supportive of the principle of the continued use of the site for older persons' accommodation and care. particularly as prior to demolition, the older building was derelict and had become a bit of an eyesore on the landscape. So some weeks ago, myself and some local residents did sit down with the planning consultants to go through the proposed scheme, and much of it was welcomed, with really except one big exception, which was the proposed design of the building. The 3-storey nature of the building, whilst not 3-storey in its entirety, does provide an overbearing feel, particularly to the properties at the rear. And it's of concern of residents that the building is taller than any existing or former buildings in that locality. And I think the drawing that Mr. Brown showed really demonstrates that demonstrates how that will look and feel. It is also fair to say that local residents have also got concerns around the ever-increasing level of traffic on the Kettering Road, particularly in view of recent developments nearby, which some of the committee may remember. I do feel that we are quite close to getting there on this one, but we're not there yet. And rather than asking for the committee to reject the application tonight, I respectfully ask for the committee to defer it to enable a further and final discussion between the planning consultant, officers and local residents to try to overcome these final hurdles to put people in a position where everybody in the local area is happy with the plan design. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor. If you just remain with us in case the committee's got any questions to ask of your committee. Any questions to ask of Councillor Hallam, please?
No one is indicating, Chair.
Thank you very much, Maisie. Thank you, Councillor Hallam. Is Mohammed Azhar with us now?
Yes, I believe he is.
Okay.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Mr. Azhar, if you identify yourself, introduce yourself, and in what capacity you speak, please.
Hi, apologies all. Sorry about the delay. My name's Azhar, and I am one of the neighbours next to the care home that will be built.
Okay, you have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. So, in regards to the proposal, I do highly object to this. Firstly, I don't agree with a home being taken down in becoming a care home. Firstly, it's a residential area. It's not a business area. I understand there was a Cheddarwood business there previously, but not at this scale, which is where the problem really lies. You know, it's going to cause a lot of traffic, no parking spaces. I'm going to have people parking on my driveway, my neighbour's driveways. The whole concept is so huge, it's going to make the neighbourhood look quite odd, if I'm honest. And our houses are going to look like dwarfs compared to this 3-storey building. I also understand that due to all this traffic, it's going to cause, there's a lot of multiple schools near the area. It's going to cause it could cause many accidents, which obviously nobody wants. Kettering Road is busy as it always has been. With this development, for sure, it's going to cause chaos. I don't agree with the plan on extending it to the next door neighbours of 486. I think that should stay as a home, as it's a residential area. I also understand that the waste location is on the back of the development, which directly links to my garden, possibly other gardens behind in Squires Walk. So that waste will attract many vermins, which is not acceptable for us neighbours. I understand they have upgraded the plan to brick walls to stop the waste from coming out, etc. But that's still unacceptable. The waste should be relocated on the other side of the scheme, where there are no houses involved at all. I believe that it's unfair for us neighbours to have to deal with this smell of garbage, the vermins. You know, it's not safe for any of us. Secondly, I also understand that there's not enough parking spaces there. Like I said, people are going to be parking all over the place. The council may need to introduce cameras, NCP cameras, you know, traffic officers possibly. I don't think an area should be like this. You know, we want peace and quiet in the day. Also, the 50 beds is far too large for the area. Cheddarwood had about 30 beds, and none of them at one point were all full. I understand if they want to do a care home there, it's fine. If they do it at a smaller scale and they do it as 2-story scale as well, because I wanted to get an extension on my garage. However, this was declined by the council. And now I feel like it's quite unfair that you can have a 3-story tall building there accepted. And I'm speaking on behalf of most of the neighbours here. Most of us actually object to this building. We all just want it in a smaller scale. You know, it's fine to do it on a smaller scale because it'll work for everyone, to be fair. So I think a lot of considerations need to be made on this planning application, and the neighbours need to be considered on this a lot as well, because we are suffering under the day. Our peace is being disturbed. There's no, as far as I know, we might not even have as much privacy as before due to the 3-story building overlooking over our gardens or our properties, etc. End of the day, we do want this peace. for the neighbourhood. And I do believe that, you know, the scale is far too large for the neighbourhood, and this should be considered before agreeing with the application. And us neighbours have been living here for years now. And
I'm
it's not
Chair.
No, Mr. Azar, I must ask you to stop there, please, if you just remain with us, in case the committee's got any questions to ask of you based on your statement. Committee, have you got any questions to ask of Mr. Azar, please?
No one is indicating, Chair.
Mr. Azar, thank you very much for your contribution there. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'll now call upon Andrea Feeney, please.
Hi, my name's Andrea Feeney. I'm the Operations Manager for Avery Healthcare, who are proposing this development.
Thank you, Andrea. You have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Avery is a Northampton-based company. We currently operate 60 elderly communities across the UK. Within Northamptonshire, we operate the Hawthorns Retirement Community, Spencer House Care Home, Cliftonville Care Home, and Ashers Mews Care Home. These homes have all got good ratings with the Care Quality Commission. By putting quality first in everything that we do for our residents, relatives and staff, we aspire to be one of the most respected and successful care providers in the UK. Our ethos is to allow residents to lead an enriched life supported by caring staff with the required skills and experience in providing dignified care. The design and operational ethos of Avery Healthcare has always been to produce and run care homes that meet and exceed the statutory standards as prescribed in the Care Standards Act 2000. Each new home we design therefore represents an evolution of design. Our care homes are designed to incorporate suitable outside leisure areas. Avery believe that access to outdoor and outdoor spaces is an essential element of supporting well-being for residents. We use local companies as suppliers, for example, fruit and veg, butchers, gardeners, food suppliers, medical practices, venues for outings such as pubs, restaurants, museums, theatres, and contracted maintenance works. We have a high demand for our placement across the communities as we have close links with the local authority, the CCG and NHS, who we work very closely with for all aspects of care provision. We already employ 300 plus people in our sites in Northampton, which are all very successful. We will be a long-standing member of the local community, and we work very hard to build positive relationships with our neighbours. The home will be managed by a general manager who will be supported by a dedicated team of staff, qualified and experienced, to meet the assessed needs of the service users and to maintain the home and its grounds. This includes full-time gardeners and maintenance staff. We enjoy an excellent reputation for quality care provision across all of our sites.
Thank you, Andrea. If you just remain there in case the committee's got any questions to ask of you. Committee, any questions to ask of Andrea, please?
No one. Oh, Councillor Markham. Brian Markham.
Yeah, Councillor Markham. Brian, yeah.
Yes, just if I could just ask Chair, with this number of residents, care is the elderly's 24/7 activity in 365. Just wondered, reference been made to parking all around the area and so on. Roughly how many staff are at the average time of day? Obviously, males, during say 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock in the morning after the breakfast is done, would be on hand with those 56 residents.
We normally, in a home like this, we would operate around 50, 55 staff, but those staff obviously wouldn't all be on shift at once. So depending on the number of residents, we normally would have a mixture of care staff alongside ancillary staff. So that will probably be in the region of maybe 15 to 20 staff on site at any one time across a 24-hour period.
Okay, Brian, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else got any questions to ask of Andrea?
No one is indicating, Chair.
Thank you, Andrea. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I call upon Mr. Adrian Kearley, please.
Thank you, Chairman and members. I'm acting as planning consultant and agent to Avery Healthcare.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Kearley, you have 3 minutes. Thank you.
This proposal will address a pressing need for purpose-built care accommodation, providing residential, nursing and specialist dementia care for older people in the local area. The site is well suited to this use, being within a sustainable and residential location, close to amenities and public transport. At the same time, the proposal is more than just a care home and will deliver economic and social benefits for Northampton. Avery are already one of the larger employers in the town, and this scheme will create up to 55 new jobs for local people, with additional jobs supported through the construction and supply chain. It will also make a positive contribution to the council's housing numbers, and in allowing residents to downsize will free up larger family homes in the local area. The design has evolved in light of extensive pre-application discussions and has been reduced in scale as far as possible, while still allowing it to be commercially and operationally viable. To reflect the streetscape, the care home will have the appearance of 3 buildings when viewed from Kettering. The height of the building draws upon the precedent created through the earlier residential consent, and the care home will step down to 2 stories where adjacent to the houses to the south and east. The space around the building allows for new landscaping and for the retention of existing trees. To the south, the 2-storey element of the building is set back from the boundary, has a consistent building line with the adjoining houses on Kettering Road, and presents only a flank elevation to the nearest property. Where closest to the properties in Squires Walk, the home is again 2 stories in height, and the roof profile slopes down to eaves level to further reduce its scale. There's a separation distance of 10 metres to the boundary, which allows for the existing planting to be retained, and an overall separation distance of 24 metres to the nearest property at number 8, albeit at an oblique angle. This part of the building again contains no windows to habitable rooms. For these reasons, the proposal would not be overbearing or result in any material loss of daylight or privacy. In fact, we consider the amenity impacts to be improved when compared with the previous housing consent for the site. Avery have met with the immediate neighbours and have committed to increasing the height of the boundary fencing and strengthening the proposed landscaping scheme. The scheme includes a total of 20 parking spaces. From Avery's experience elsewhere in Northampton, and having regard to the nearby bus stops and the proposed travel plan measures, the number of spaces will fully meet their needs. The provision exceeds that recommended in the applicant's parking accumulation data, and the ratio of provision is comparable to the previous care home on the site. We note that no objections have been raised by the county highways engineer on parking or access grounds. Thank you for your time. We welcome your officer's positive recommendation and hope you'll be able to support this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Keeley. If you just remain with us, so the committee can ask any questions if anyone's got any. Committee, any questions to ask of Mr. Keeley? Councillor Birch, Jane, I can see.
And Councillor Russell.
Thank you very much, Maisie. Thank you. Councillor Birch, Jane, yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Keeley, you've obviously had conversations with Councillor Hallam and the local residents, and there have been some alterations and adjustments to your design. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. We've been through a series of discussions, not just with the neighbours and the councillor, but also with the local authority, and the scheme has been reduced in capacity by 10 beds from where we originally started, and the scale has reduced as a result as well.
Can I just have a supplementary quickly? Thank you.
Yes.
Councillor Hallam suggested that you were very close to having a solution to all the residents' objections. Do you feel the same? I mean, is there any value in continuing these discussions to address some of the issues that have been raised tonight?
As I said in my presentation, we've reduced the scale to a point where we believe the scheme in design and amenity terms is now fully acceptable. And obviously we have to be mindful of viability, both in terms of commercial reasons, but also the operation of the home and staffing ratios as well. So we are now at a point where we believe we have a scheme that has been reduced as far as we can take it.
Yeah. Councillor Russell, Catherine?
Yes, thank you. I looked around the previous care home when it was in existence, and could you tell me, Mr. Keeley, how many beds that previous care home had, please?
Yes, so the previous care home, it had, at one point, I believe it had 26 bedrooms, but it did have a number of extensions to enlarge it, which would have taken the capacity to 40 bedrooms plus. But obviously that was a care home that wasn't purpose built. and it didn't have full ensuite bedrooms. It didn't have the full amenity provisions and the modern care that we will be providing in this home.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else got any questions to ask of Mr. Kearley, please?
One is indicating, Chair.
No one. Thank you, Maisie. Thank you, Mr. Kearley. Thank you very much.
Chair, could I raise an issue, please?
Yeah, sure. Peter, go ahead.
Thank you. Maisie, did Councillor Chowdhury join before this item was started or during it?
During this item, Peter.
Okay. Chair, can I suggest that Councillor Chowdhury takes no part in the
determination? Yeah, he can't. If he hasn't joined before the meeting, before the application was heard, no. I'm afraid he can't take part in this now, I'm afraid.
Thank
you. Okay. Right.
That would just be for this particular application, wouldn't it?
That's right. Correct. That's right. Yeah, that's absolutely correct, Catherine. Okay. And yeah, it was only referring to this application, not for the rest of the meeting. Yeah. Provided it stays, of course. Yeah. Right. Adam, did you want to come back on anything before I open the questions to the committee to you?
No, thank you, Chair.
Right. Committee, it's questions to Adam on his report. Any questions to Adam, please? Questions we're talking about now. Questions.
No one's indicating, Chair.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Maisie. Right, committee, we're on to comments then. Any comments, please?
Councillor Russell.
Councillor Russell, Catherine, yeah.
Thank you. I don't know if the other planning members of the planning committee received this letter and information sheet from BECG concerning the application that arrived today. I would be in favour really of doing what Councillor Hallam suggested, which is deferring this decision so that when it does come before the committee, I think a facility like this is really important in this town. We've lost a number of care homes, and I think if we can get one that promises to be the professional and the high quality standard this one says it is, then I think it's important to support it as much as we can. But I would like to see the area in agreement with what it's doing.
Okay, take your point, Catherine, there. To what purpose do you think the fact of getting closer, to what purpose do you think it would achieve? I mean, we have what we have in front of us. Mr. Fairley says he's gone as far as he can. I heard what Councillor Hallam said, but what do you think we could defer it on what ground? We're not got there yet, but...
No. Well, Councillor Hallam was saying that he thought it could be deferred so that additional negotiations could be made. Mr. Fairley made it clear that they'd gone as far as they could. Perhaps with other discussions, everybody could come out of this feeling a little bit happier about it.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you. Anyone else got any comments, please, committee?
Councillors Brian Markham, Councillor Lane and Councillor King, sorry.
Okay, so councillors you've given to me. Councillor Markham, Brian, yeah, please.
Thank you, Chair. I congratulate Mike Allen. He always does a good job, and he does engage with people and with developers on application. But I think that's probably the case. Yeah, the design's been altered. They talked about fencing, planting of trees, and the number of residents been reduced. And we have an application before us, which I think is not only acceptable, but probably desirable when it comes to the impact of. It's not I think quite away from the garden of anybody's in Squires Walk. Yes, it's quite a large building, but I think the report shows that it's not really overbearing. And when it comes to traffic and so on, I've got a father who's in a residential home, about the same number of residents, but also it's got flats nearby and bungalows and other. So the total number of residents is probably double what's proposed here. And the traffic generated, sometimes even not in COVID times, very small. The number of staff on duty at any one time. You know, unfortunately, when people are in residential homes, they don't receive many visitors. So I think the disturbance that's going to happen, the traffic generation, I think, yes, people are going to worry about that, but they're not really, it's not a real concern. I'd support the recommendations I set out, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian. Thank you. Councillor Lane, Jamie?
Thank you. Yes, I was going to agree with what Councillor Russell has said about deferring it. I do think it is overbearing. It's a story too high, in my opinion. And the position of it at that junction with Spinney Hill Road and Ketchum Road, it is a busy junction. And you take 20 members of staff going to go there every day. That's in addition to visitors. People do visit people in care homes, I'm afraid to say. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor King. Anna?
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to say what a wonderful facility. I myself am a lifestyle coach in not Avery Healthcare, a rival company in the town, and we have 270 apartments, which are independent living for over 55s. This application is stated as Class C2, which is provision for residentials who need extra care, specific care needs for them. So I don't think they'd be having vehicles of their own. There is adequate bus routes outside. Most of them do use the local transport special buses that are provided anyway, so I don't think we need to really worry about that. Obviously, there will be staff, there will be visitors. I think 20 spaces is probably going to be ample for that. I do, however, have the concerns around where the disposal area is going to be based, as we've heard from one of the local residents earlier, and possibly the height as well. If we go back and look at it again, I think we'd all feel a bit more happier about it. If it turns out that it's not going to be financially viable for the company to go ahead, then obviously we've got that decision to make when it comes back to committee. So they're my views. Thank you, Councillor King. Thank you, Anna. Well, as I say, on my particular point, Councillor Hallam, as he always does, explicit, says everything that's really necessary in this application, and it's crystal clear, and I can understand the reason for deferment. But I think, to my own personal point of view, the applicant has done what he can to mitigate the problems, not perhaps completely to the satisfaction of the nearby neighbours or whatever. I don't share in myself, like Councillor Russell says, and she says it very sincerely, and so does Councillor Lane, the need for deferment. I think this is a good application, and for the reasons that it's there, and it seems to me as if it's a well-run care home. So I would be taking the point that Councillor Hallam, Councillor Russell, and Councillor Lane have said. No disrespect to them, but I think it's a fair application, and I can't see any reason why I shouldn't be able to support it. But that's just my point of view. If everybody's had their say, it now comes to me to ask the committee that the proposal, the recommendation from the officers is to accept the approval from as the applicants laid out. Could I have a proposer that we accept the officers' recommendation for approval, please? Councillor Botwood, Alan, a proposer, a seconder? Do you have a seconder?
Councillor Brian Markham is indicating, Chair.
Councillor Markham, Brian, thank you, seconder. Those in favour of we accept the officer's recommendation for approval, please?
Seven hands, Chair.
7-4, thank you. Those against? Any against?
Two against.
And is there an abstention?
No, Councillor Chowdhury's not voting on this
that-
item.
That's right, he had to leave, that's right. So that's approved on the vote of 7 for and 2 against. Thank you very much, thank you. Right, committee, we now come on to item 10D. Which is 50.
Chair.
Yes. Okay.
My iPad's somebody decided it's low on battery. I don't know what. I will leave this item and try and get it sorted out so that we don't end up going completely flat. I'll come back for the next item if I may. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Brian. Thank you. Okay, so we're down to, okay, that's fine. The numbers are about the same now. So Councillor Chowdhury's come back in, has he?
Correct,
Yes.
Chair.
Okay, thank you. Right, item 10D, 50 Manfield Road, change of use from dwelling house to house in multiple occupation for 5 occupants. Anna, this is your report. Would you present it, please?
Thank you, Chair. The application site is a mid-terrace property located here. You can see it's located next to Wellingborough Road to the south. This is the front elevation of the property. Of note is the black door, which is an existing under alleyway into the rear garden of the property. And there's 2 windows here that serve the basement of the existing house. This is the alleyway again, so it's just for the use of the occupiers of the house. This is the existing rear garden. And then this is the basement, so again you can see those windows that I pointed out. The existing property is a 5-bedroom house. So you see at basement, there's a bedroom in that basement room. At ground floor, we have a living room, dining room and kitchen. We have 3 bedrooms at first floor and then another bedroom in the loft. The application proposes a 5-person HIMO. At basement level, the bedroom would be changed into a kitchen with a large storage area here for the use of the residents. At ground floor, we would have 2 ensuite bedrooms and a living room be retained for the use of all of the occupiers. A new entrance would also be made into that alleyway, which leads directly into the rear garden to make easier access for all residents. At first floor, we would have 3 ensuite bedrooms and there would be no bedroom within the loft. So just to show you the elevations, the only change really are the insertion of the new windows looking into the alley. Now, committee members may remember that in March, committee refused an application for 7 occupants, a 7-occupant HIMO in this building. And this is the plans from that refusal. So if I just show you, again, it had a kitchen at ground floor. We had 3 ensuite bedrooms at ground floor, 3 ensuite bedrooms at first floor, and then another ensuite bedroom at the loft level. The reasons for refusal related to a convoluted access to the kitchen, which I understand is because of the loft level access having to go down 3 floors to the basement. Due to the access to the bin store, so you'll note there's no doorway access, so all occupiers had to go out the front door down the alleyway to get to the bin stores in the back garden. And due to parking concerns due to the 7 occupants. So just to take you back to the proposed plans again. As you can see, to overcome those reasons for refusal the committee had earlier, the living room has created at ground floor, which is accessed by all the occupants. And this allows easy access into the basement kitchen, so occupiers can either eat in the basement or in the living room. The new doorway access allows easy access to the bin store and bike store for all occupiers. And parking wise, the number of occupiers has been reduced from 7 to 5, which reduces the need for parking. The site is also in a sustainable location. It's near a number of bus routes with a regular service. And as such, the proposal does comply with the Housing and Multiple Occupation SPD with regards to parking. The concentration as a result of this proposal would be 5.8%, which is less than the 10% limit. And it's also worth noting that private sector housing had no objection to the proposal, outlining that the room sizes and the kitchen are acceptable for them. So in conclusion, it is considered that the amendments have overcome the previous reasons for refusal, and the recommendation is for approval. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Anna. We have one speaker on this. It's Mr. Steve Ingram. Mr. Ingram, are you there?
I am, yes. Good evening, Chairman.
Good evening. If you identify yourself, Mr. Ingram, and in what capacity you speak, please.
Yes, I'm Steve Ingram. I'm the applicant for this planning request.
Okay, thank you. You have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Planning Committee. I hope that you can support the recommendation of the Planning Office to approve this conversion to a 5-occupant HMO. Firstly, if I give a bit of context about myself, I'm an experienced and responsible landlord. I've let out property for over 10 years. I have 2 existing HMOs. I've lived in HMOs myself in London and when I was at university. So I feel I have a good understanding of what is important to operate a house well, have high standards, keep tenants happy and keep the neighbours happy as well. The 2 HMOs I have, and this HMO will have fully ensuite rooms and be equipped to a very high standard. In terms of the planning process, I have worked closely with the planning team. I sought 2 sets of pre-application advice, and also I very much listened to the feedback on my previous request that was refused. So as the officer has just gone through now, I've reduced the number of occupants from 7 to 5. I've also removed the proposed dormer conversion and reconfigured it internally to improve the flow of the property. This house has actually been let out for a number of years, but there's a strong demand for lower cost, high quality shared accommodation from younger people, key workers and people that live and want to live near the town centre. The location is a sustainable one, so it's around 120 metres, something like that, from Wellingborough Road. Buses every 10 to 15 minutes into the centre. Over and above that, there is a wide array of amenities. So there is supermarkets, banks, restaurants, takeaways, really everything that residents would need within walking and certainly cycling distance. In terms of the concentration, with this development, it would be at 5.8%, so well below the 10% threshold. So relatively few HMOs within this vicinity. And finally, there have been no objections from neighbours, but finally, to alleviate any potential concerns in that area, I used a reputable local letting agent that fully background checks all my tenants. I personally decide on whether to let to any tenants or not, and we do refuse a number of them. We want good tenants that are going to respect the property and make life good and simple for neighbours. Additionally, the agent or representative visit every week to preempt any issues. We think prevention is better than cure. And lastly, the boards are outside periodically, so they know who the agent is, and neighbours can contact them if there are any concerns, but we don't anticipate there will be. So thank you very much for your time. I hope this is useful, and any questions, of course, please let me know.
Thank you, Mr. Ingram. If you just remain with us while I put that offer to the committee. Committee, do you have any questions to ask of Mr. Ingram, please? Councillor Russell, Catherine, yeah.
Hello, good evening, Mr. Ingram. I was very pleased to see that each of your bedrooms has an ensuite bathroom, and I think the latest application is looking better. How many ovens, or is it just one cooker and oven that you've got there?
It's two ovens in the kitchen, so the minimum requirements would only be for one, but I've got the space for 2, so I'm proposing I will leave 2 in, and that would be supplemented by microwave as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Catherine. Anyone else got any questions, please, to Mr. Ingram? Councillors? No one indicating, Maisie?
No one's indicating, Chair.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ingram. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right. Any questions to ask of Anna Committee?
No one's indicating, Chair.
No, and there's nothing you want to come back on, Anna, is there, on what was?
No,
what
thank
Mr.
you,
Ingram
Chair.
said? Thank you. Right, committee's comments then. Any comments, please? Councillor Botwood, Alan.
Thank you,
Councillor
Chair.
Lane.
Looking at this one once again, I've a mind to support it because it looks like it's been very well thought out, and we, as a authority or committee, have tried to get a better standard of HIMOs. This one has all ensuite. It's got a living room, and I think, as I say, my mind is to fully support it under these circumstances.
Thank you, Alan. Councillor Lane, Jamie.
Yes, I'm pleased with the application. I was going to propose to accept the officer's recommendation for approval.
Yeah. Okay, Jamie, thank you very much. As I say, I did vote against it previously, but I think the applicant's made great inroads into mitigating some of the problems that was there before. So unless anybody else has got any comments, I have Councillor Lane's proposal that we accept the officer's recommendation for approval in this case. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Botwood, Alan, yeah, thank you. Okay, all those in favour that we accept the officer's recommendation to approve this application, please?
Nine hands, Chair, unanimous.
That's right. Thank you, Maisie, because Councillor Markham has left us. Yeah, thank you. So that's...
Chair, I think Councillor Carley has also left the meeting.
Yes,
Oh,
she
right.
has.
She's left now. Okay. Okay, so we now come on. Thank you for that, Peter. Maisie, we now come on to item 10E committee. Is Councillor Markham back with us, by the way?
I'm trying to be, but I'm still disabled.
Yeah.
You
mean your
cannot
laptop,
start you cannot start your video. The host has asked me to start. Lovely, thank you.
Okay, you're with us, Brian.
Chair.
Yeah, Peter.
So, sorry, Chair, could I just take the opportunity to introduce another officer at this point? We have Jonathan Hazel with us, who's the Council's Arboricultural Officer, and
Yeah.
Jonathan will be available to answer any technical questions when the members are asking questions of the case officer.
That's regarding the tree, I take it. Peter.
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that. Okay, right. So item 10E on page 77 committee. It's at 1A Billing Road. It's a proposed removal of a horse chestnut tree under Tree Preservation Order 069. Rita, I believe this is your report. Would you present it, please?
Thank you, Chair. You can bear with me. Let me fire up the PowerPoint. Yeah. Thank you, Chair. Yeah. Thank you. First of all, we'd like to draw members' attention to the addendum. We have received comments from County Councillor Winston Strachan regarding the tree there. Also, we have received further 30 letters of objections from various people, but the reasons for objection are largely covered in paragraph 8.2 of the report. However, one of the objectors stated that the tree canopy does not overhang the neighbor's property, and that the description in paragraphs 3.2 and 9.8 of the report are incorrect. It is true, I have to correct that. The tree canopy does spread across to the boundary, but not exactly overhanging the next door property. So this is the application site in red. Currently, it is a dental practice. It is adjoining to a firm of accountants to the west. The site is at the junction of Alexandra Road and Billing Road, and it falls within the Billing Road Conservation Area. Just show you the area photograph. You can just see the tree position in here. So just to show you a photograph, this is Alexandra Road and Billing Road, and this is the tree in question, which is a horse chestnut tree. It has been mentioned in the report about the retaining wall. There's damage in this wall. You know, we probably can just see it from this photograph. This is just another view from Billing Road. Again, you can see the tree, you know, you can see from further view in Billing Road, but the tree, it is in quite a prominent position. Just another view, this is Northampton General Hospital, and this is the accountant firm. Right, the application come before members is to request to remove the tree. The application has been submitted with the support of an arboricultural report. The report mentioned that due to fungal growth to the tree and progressive infection that affects its stability and weaken the tree. The report said, you know, this will result in possible catastrophic brittle failure of the stem base. The next picture, you can see this is the tree base. You can see where it is. This is a closer photograph. You can see growth in the base of the tree. So let's go back to that one. So the report made it quite clear in paragraphs 9.1 and 9.5 regarding the condition of the tree. Obviously, the tree is covered by a tree preservation order and is a long established feature in this location, and also form the setting of the conservation area. Unfortunately, if the tree do fail and it were to happen, the consequence will be very serious, especially because it is in a very busy junction and a major bus route as well on Billing Road. It is very difficult to estimate the timing of when the tree will fail. What is sure is that the tree is in a poor and declining condition. We need to acknowledge that the tree provides valuable amenity value, especially for wildlife and also to combat air pollution. However, this is a balancing act, and it is a balance between public safety and general amenity. With the advice of the council's tree officer, his comment is that the tree report submitted is robust, and therefore the recommendation is to accept the suggestion to removal of the tree. However, a condition will be imposed should member be decided to support the recommendation, is to replace this tree with another one, and extra heavy standard trees with appropriate species. And the replacement tree will also be protected by a tree preservation order. Obviously, in time, the replacement tree will also re-establish and provide amenity value in this location. Honestly, no one wants to cut trees down if it is not necessary. However, the tree report is considered to be robust, and therefore the recommendation is to approve the removal of this tree. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Rita. We have two speakers on this, and I call upon Councillor Penny Flavel. Penny, are you there, please?
Can you hear me all right?
Yes, I can hear you, Penny. Yeah, good
Thank
evening,
you.
Penny.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much. If you just identify yourself for a matter of the record, Penny, and in what capacity you speak, please.
Of course, I'm Councillor Penny Flavel. I'm here to object to this application, really on behalf of everybody else who has written in and has also objected.
Okay, you've got 3 minutes, Penny, as you know. Thank you.
Those of you who've sat on planning committees before will realise that this application is very unusual. As far as I'm aware, there's never been a tree application brought to the committee before. This is the first. This goes to show the amount of feeling that this application has engendered. In Mr. Hazel's report, he is suggesting that the tree could be a danger to the general public. However, this is not suggested in the report prepared by the applicant's arboriculturalist, upon which Mr. Hazel is basing some of his report. A large part of the original report seems to be based on the potential damage to a wall by this tree, and the wall is also owned by the applicant, and also the cost pertaining to repairing this wall. This wall has been looked at by our own building control, who say the wall is also not a danger to the public. The wall has stood where it is for at least 150 years and has not been cared for by the applicant, who has attached metal advertising signs to it. At this point, we then have to ask the reason why the applicant wishes to fell this wonderful tree. In 2.2 paragraph 3 of Mr. Hazel's report is correct, if it's correct. I cannot see why the applicant has not taken care of this fantastic tree over the many years he's owned it. One remarkable thing the applicant's report does say is that it is unlikely this tree could be safely retained for more than 10 years. Thereby, we can assume that this tree has the potential, if looked after properly, to live at least another 10 years. And who are we to deny a 200-year-old tree that chance? What I would like to ask you to do tonight is to give this magnificent tree another chance. Defer your decision and ask for a second independent report to be done on this wonderful tree. The objectors to this application have asked for permission to do this from the applicant, but have been refused, and one can only wonder why. I would like to refer you to one or two things: NPPF paragraph 170 and policy 4 of CAAP and section 72 of Planning Act 1990.
Right, thank you, Penny. If you just remain with us in case the committee's got any questions to ask of you. Committee, any questions to ask of Councillor Flavel? Councillor Birch, Jane, yeah?
Councillor Russell.
Yes, I've seen Councillor Russell, yeah. Thank you, Maisie.
Thank you, Chair. Penny, it's a splendid tree, it's a magnificent tree, it's a huge tree. Has it ever had the canopy reduced? Has it been trees need constant attention, and every 2 to 3 years they need to be looked at. And just looking at the photograph, it seems to me that that tree has not been looked after properly, and that might prolong its life, or it might not have been in the position that it's in at the moment. So has it ever had any tender, loving care?
Councillor Flavel, Penny? Are you still with us, Penny?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can now, yeah.
I was going to say, Jane has asked one of the best questions she could possibly ask, or anybody, because if you look at the report, you can see that the TPO was put on this tree many years ago. And there was also, here it says, I think on page 78, that there was an application to lift the tree's canopy and remove any dead wood. None of that has ever happened. This tree has been allowed just to go as it is, get disease, and The problem, I think, is living very close, that the applicant just not care about this tree, despite the fact it's had a TPO on it. Thank you, Jane, for asking that.
Councillor Russell, Catherine, yeah?
Yes, good evening, Penny. Thank you very much
Hello,
for your
Catherine.
presentation. There's two things. This tree is in the same, well, it's my dentist actually. I go to the dentist practice, and he is a thoroughly delightful, caring individual. And if I was sitting in his dental chair and heard a large crack and wondered what was coming through the roof, then that's obviously going to be the tree, and that's probably what he's concerned about. Do you know for a fact that it's not had any attention? Has he actually specifically said he hasn't given it or called in a tree surgeon to attend to it?
Well, I can't be precise, of course, because I don't watch it, but I live within a very short time. I live very close to it, just the other side of Alexandra Road on the Billing Road. And I've lived there for nearly 30 years. Not once, whilst I've lived there, have I ever noticed work done on this tree. I live opposite the hospital. They regularly, obviously, have a contract with arboriculturalists, I don't quite know what the correct word is, and they go regularly, and they have a regular system of removing the branches and allowing the rest of the tree to grow properly. As far as I'm aware, I cannot swear to it, this tree has never had any work done to it.
Thank you. Anybody else got any questions to ask of Penny? Councillor Flavel, please.
No one's indicating, Chair.
Thank you, Maisie. Thank you, Penny. Thank you very much for that statement. Thank you.
Thank you.
I now call upon Mr. Nick Stevens, please.
Hello.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Stevens. Thank you for waiting. If you just identify yourself and in what capacity you speak, please.
Yes, thank you. I'm Nick Stevens, and I live literally opposite the dentist at number 2 Billing Road.
Okay, you have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Two things. I'm rather disappointed that Muna Kali has left the meeting, as she is one of the Castle Ward representatives. So I'm disappointed in that. And also, with due respect to Rita Bovey, who gave a summary of the issues, I think it was rather a confusing summary about the situation of the tree. There have been 2 reports into the tree, one by the applicant and one by the council. But anyway, I live at number 2 Billing Road, which is in Castle Ward. The tree is about 12 metres away from my house. My house is 160 years old. The tree is believed to be about 200 years old and was there before my house and the applicant. As yet, no official from the council or the applicant has considered the impact of removing the tree will have on my house. Apart from the wind and sun protection it affords my house, I am seriously worried that if removed, there will be subsidence that will affect my property. It is well known that roots of mature trees extend for many meters. In addition, they absorb hundreds of liters of water a day. Removing this tree will kill its roots, making the ground unstable. The council could be liable for any subsidence damage to my house caused by recommending the removal of this tree. Around 100 objections have been received by the council. That is a lot, and I'm surprised we are quite low down after 2.5 hours or nearly 3 hours in this meeting that this item is there. There's been, as I said, over 100 objections. This shows the intense feelings from the local community and beyond to save this tree. No emails or messages of support to cut down the tree have been received by the council. The council's own report by Jonathan Hazel highlights fungus and other issues. But none of these points would have come to light if the application had not been made. Life is full of risks. The tree has survived 200 years of pollution, heat, wind and storms. There's no documented account of any dangerous incident from this tree. The chances of this tree causing injury to a person or damage to a car are very low. To cut down this large tree because there is a small possibility of it causing a problem in the future is just simply not right. These trees go to our 300 years.
Hi, Chair.
I'm sorry, Mr. Stevens, the time is up. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
If you just remain with us in case the committee's got any questions to ask of you, please.
Thank
Committee,
you.
do you have any questions to ask of Mr. Stevens, please? Anyone?
No one's indicating, Chair.
Thank you, Maisie. Thank you very much, Mr. Stevens. Thank you very much. Right. Rita, there's no more speakers on it as such. Do you want to come back on any of the comments that's been made by the speakers?
No, Chair, but I wonder whether members have any question for Jonathan Hazel, our tree officer.
I'm coming to that, Rita. Thank you. That's just what I was going to say. Committee, you have a double chance here to ask questions of either Rita or Jonathan Hazel, Mr. Hazel, who's sitting here. So if anybody's got any questions in that regard, and please say who they're to, I'd be grateful. Councillor Russell, Catherine, yeah.
And Councillor King, Councillor Lane and Councillor Brian Markham.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Russell, Catherine, yeah.
Thank you. This is a question to Jonathan Hazel. I don't know if you're able to answer this, but if there is a catastrophic failure with this tree, it obviously could cause the surrounding area to have a huge amount of damage. And if the roots are killed off, then as the applicant or as the man, Mr. Stevens, I think it has said, the council could be responsible for subsidence to his property. Could you give your views on that, please?
Jonathan, yeah.
Thank you, Chair. There wouldn't be a problem with subsidence because that is a risk associated with the abstraction of moisture from the soil. The tree is currently abstracting moisture from the soil. There might, but I doubt it very much, be a risk which would arise if the soil was allowed to rehydrate because water was no longer being removed. However, that is an extraordinarily low risk, and I don't think it applies in this case. The bigger question is the soil type, and local sandstones I think are fairly free draining, and I do not believe there is an issue of either substance or heave.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Catherine. Councillor Lane, Jamie, you've got a question, Jamie?
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to make a comment how magnificent that tree is. Because when you go down Binning Road, you can't miss it. And it's a beautiful, beautiful specimen. And it'd be a shame to lose it. Now, it was mentioned in the report that there would be a replacement tree. But can you give some clarity into the age and the size of that tree that's going to replace it? It's no good putting a little sapling, is it?
Jonathan?
Thank you, Chair. It wouldn't be a little sapling. The technical specification for an extra heavy standard is given in the report, and it stands 3.5 metres high. So it will be quite substantial. But bearing in mind the tree base is 2 metres above the public footpath. Okay, it's not an immediate replacement for the defective horse chestnut that we have now, but it would, in time, assume more stature and prominence.
Thank you. Councillor Markham, Brian?
Thank you, Chair. My question was for Rita Bovey rather than Jonathan Hazel.
Yeah, okay.
Well, it's just slightly confused. When an application is made to fell a TPL tree, there must be some be put in that application. And the reason for the original reason requesting for the applicant to be allowed to fell the tree. Now, my reading of it is that, in fact, when the applicant requested to chop down this tree, it was because of the damage to the retaining wall or the boundary wall, rather than the condition of the tree and any damage it might do if bits fell off. And second question is, do we know when they made previous applications to fell the tree, they were told, no, you can't do that? Going back to Catherine Russell's view, do we know whether the previous consent to make changes to the canopy and to cut down dead wood and clear out, and maybe Jonathan Hazel will know, has there indeed ever been any work, because application was made to do work to this tree in the past, and if it was given, why wasn't it carried out? Thank you.
Yeah, through you, Chair. I think I can answer part of the question. Maybe Jonathan can help me afterwards. If you remember, look at the history, obviously, there was an application that came in around the 2001 era time when it was suggested that trees should be removed, but that application wasn't successful at the time. We believe that, you know, the trees have stayed, but obviously at the time the evidence wasn't there to say that the tree was in this condition, but this time is different. I think the two strands of things here. Yes, there was damage, but that is not the main thing. The main thing for us to consider is the condition of the tree, which is supported by the information that came in, and also by the inspection by our tree officer about, you know, the fungus growth on this tree. So, so yes, previously there was application, but it's a long time ago. You talk about, you know, it's almost like 20 years ago when an application came in for its removal. So it is a very different scenario this time.
Yeah, but the question, sorry, Rita, at that time, there was no permission for removal, but there was permission to carry out works to the tree, as on my recollection, 20 years ago. Do we know whether any of that work was actually carried out? And if it had been carried out, would it affect the condition of the tree?
Through you, Chair, I believe around 2000 there were works being done. I think that can be confirmed by Jonathan, because he's got the history, you know, of this particular tree, and I believe, yeah, work were carried out, but not recently, but it's some time ago.
Jonathan, I can see you, Jane. I will come to you. Don't worry. I've got Anna first, then I'll come to you. Jonathan, did you want to come back on any of that point, please?
There has been, or there was some work way back when, which actually resulted in the TPO being served. I don't believe there's been significant work done to the canopy ever since. The suggestion from around the room that somehow the tree is now safe because it's 200 years old, forgive me, I think is erroneous. It has got a pathogenic progressive fungal infection at its base, which it may never have had before. Also, the inference that that somehow has been introduced by the owner, I think, is a bit misleading. The fungus is there, and it will result in significant deterioration of the quality of the tree's cells at its base, which will result in 16 meters high and perhaps 12 meters wide of horse chestnut tree collapsing at some unknown time in the future.
Thank you, Jonathan. Councillor King, Anna?
Thank you, Chair. I think what we really need to consider is, are we going to take away the potential of 10 years of somebody's life? It may be a tree, but it's a tree. We're trying to promote the green agenda at the moment and climate change. Is this something really important to what we're actually trying to protect? So, notes from the Woodland Trust, under their Protect Trees Outside Woods, states local authorities must avoid the removal of any tree on land in areas unless there are agricultural or health and safety needs. If a tree must be removed, local authorities should implement minimum replacement planting ratios, which stipulate for every non-woodland tree removed, at least 3 new trees need to be planted. This does not include ancient veteran trees, which are irreplaceable and should be retained. So 1 tree, from what the recommendation is, simply isn't enough. We need to have 3. And secondly, have we carried out the capital asset value for amenity trees, which gives a true cost of what that tree's actual value is to our community?
Rita, Jonathan, do you wish to answer on that one?
No.
About the planting of 3 trees?
I haven't carried out a caveat assessment because my overriding concern was not public amenity, but was public health and public safety.
Thank you.
On a point, if I may,
Sorry.
on the second point, if I may, Chair, the
Yeah.
TPO regulations do not allow for more than 1-to-1 replacement.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Birch, Jane?
Thank you, Chair. My question is for Jonathan. Is there any way with judicial surgical specialist treatment that tree could be reduced in size, could regenerate and could heal? Is there any way that the fungus can be eradicated to make the tree healthy again? And my second question is, the replacement tree, all this is going to be very expensive, whatever happens, whether it's going to be looked after and saved, whether it's going to be cut down and replaced. Is the applicant clear as to the cost that's involved? Because both the removal and the treatment are going to be extremely costly.
Jonathan?
I can't comment on the applicant's financial position, so I don't know, but it will be a condition if the tree is allowed to be removed that it is replaced with a large extra heavy standard. And sorry, I've forgotten the first point.
Jane, do you want to come back with your first part?
Yes. Can with expert care, can the tree be saved?
Okay, because of the very aggressive pruning that was carried out prior to the serving of the order, there's no real branch structure in the lower part of the canopy. The lower canopy is now formed by what are known as epicormic shoots. So they're recent buds which grow from just below the surface. If we were to try and instruct that the canopy be carefully reduced in order to reduce the risk to public safety, my concern is that that would remove such an amount of leaf area that the tree's energy reserves would all be exhausted, and it would actually hasten the tree's decline, bearing in mind it's already got a fungal infection at its base. So it might have the opposite consequence of what we'd actually hoped for.
Thank you. Anyone else got any questions to ask of either Rita or Jonathan, please?
Councillor Kilbyshaw.
Councillor Kilbyshaw, Sam?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I have 2 questions, if that's okay, Chair.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so my first question is, what is the chance that the tree will collapse, say in the next year, 10 years, or given that, or longer than that? And the second question is, if the tree does collapse and causes injury or damage to property, who would be the responsible party in terms of compensation or any legal action or otherwise? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Sam. Jonathan, the first question about the collapse of the tree?
That is unfortunately an impossible question to answer. All I can confirm is that the infection has the consequence of destroying the tissues at the base of the tree. If it were to fall, it's impossible to say when. The second question, who is responsible? Currently, because the owner has applied for consent to fell the tree, if we were to say, no, you cannot fell the tree, we as the authority would become responsible for any costs if the tree were to fall within 12 months. Therefore, I would imagine the owner's arboricultural consultant would encourage him to make if this application were to fail, I would imagine we'd receive another application within 8 months' time, so that we as the local authority were permanently at risk if the tree were to fail.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that. Anyone else got any questions to ask of either Rita or Jonathan, please? No? Rita, is there anything you want to come back on before I ask the committee to ask any? Well, they've asked the questions, but you've got nothing to add at this stage?
No, Chair, thank you.
Okay. Right, committee, you've asked the questions of Rita and Jonathan. It's now comments. The comment that I've got is we're looking at a health safety factor here. One of the things that worries me, Councillor Kilby-Shaw did touch on it. The fact is that we've had a lot of, with regards to this tree coming down, we've had a lot of severe storms lately. I'll see you, Alan, I'll come in a minute, yeah. We've had a lot of severe storms. I mean, if you go back to last February, we had Storm Ciara, Storm Dennis, and Storm Orge all in the space of about 3 to 4 weeks. This tree, yeah, it survived them. But the way the climatic weather is going at the minute, the storms are getting more prevalent and they're getting probably more severe. We have to look at the situation of whether this tree would sustain itself, particularly with the infection and the disease it's got. It does worry me because the tree does overhang the pavement. I take on board everything what Councillor Playville said, what Councillor Strachan said in his letter and her email, and what Mr. Stevens has said. It's a very emotive and sensitive situation, and I love and like trees. Normally I have problems in my ward where people want to take them down because it's doing damage. This one's a bit of a novelty because they want to keep it, but it's got the right reasons, sentimentality and the emotion why they should be kept. But what comes first in this possibility, the potential, the lifespan of a tree or the potential danger that the tree could inflict on a passerby if we are in stormy weather and it's too frail to withstand it. I don't think we can ignore that danger. We can't measure it, we can't measure prevention, but it's there. And quite frankly, I'm reluctantly saying that, well, this tree probably, and all taking everything on board and listening to what's being said, would possibly, in my opinion, have to go. But then again, that's just my opinion. Councillor Botwood, Alan.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. As you know, I live in an area with quite a few trees in it. My experience, and this is what worries me with this one, is no tree will give you any warning that it's going to drop a branch or it's going to fall over. I'm no expert, and you have to be guided by the professionals in these instances. Now, I fully appreciate what Councillor Flavel said about independent report, but I don't believe necessarily that anybody wants to take trees down unless they are in a dangerous condition. You know, with all the history of trees, we've got to keep the trees. They help with pollution and everything else. I, as an individual like you, am worried that if I, as an individual, make the choice tonight that tree, I'm going to go against officers' recommendations. If that fell over in a week's time and killed somebody, I would feel awful. No question about it. So once again, we have professional people. In my mind, we have to listen to what they say and take action accordingly. And that's my comment, really.
Yeah, based on that, Alan, I quite agree. And the amount of objections we've got here, there's plenty and there's loads, and I've shared them and I respect them. But if that tree was to come down and kill somebody while it's under our liability, there'd be a massive uproar, hue and cry about that. The council knew about this, they should have done something. I agree, that's a problem. Anybody else got any comments to make? Councillor Birch, Jane.
Thank you. It is difficult, isn't it? Because it's public safety against, you know, a tree that has been there 200 years and very much part of the street scene and, you know, people's memories and lives. I personally would like to see a sort of two-stage process, a reduction of the canopy, reduction, you know, cutting back of the tree, reducing its bulk, which actually would, you know, make it a lot healthier. And maybe just see what happens in 12 months' time. I know that's possibly not something we could look at and decide, but I do want to actually put my point that I'm not happy with it as it is, and I'm not happy with cutting it down, you know, without giving it another chance.
Thank you, Jane. Anyone else? Catherine, Councillor Russell, Catherine. Yeah.
Councillor King, Councillor Kilby-Shaw, Mary Markham, Brian Markham, and Councillor Chowdhury.
Okay, and Uncle Tom Cobley and all.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Maisie. Councillor Russell, Catherine. Yeah.
I think listening to our expert, our borough expert, I don't think it's possible to give this beautiful tree another chance. And yes, it's devastating to lose this sort of lovely tree, but I don't know that we've got any choice. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Right, Councillor Kilby-Shaw, Sam, please. I'll try to remember you all.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to reiterate what my colleagues have said. I don't think any of us want to see a splendid tree chopped down, but if it is going to pose a danger to the public, then we have to bear that in mind, and we have to bear in mind that we are responsible for the maintenance if we don't approve this. If it was a healthy tree, then that would of course be completely different, I'm sure.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Councillor Kilby-Shaw. Councillor Markham, Mary.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it's a question of conscience, really. And, you know, I take on board what Councillor Feevel said and what Mr. Stevens says, and it is the most gorgeous tree. And nobody would make a snap decision to take it down. Like some of my colleagues, I've dealt with the tree specialists. And like you said, Chair, it's not easy to get trees taken down, not to keep them up. And believe me, and I mean this very respectfully, the most difficult people to deal with are tree people when you want a tree down, because it has to be really the last resort. They're not going to give way in anything. So I'm happy as I sit here that if the tree people are saying that this is a danger, then I know that that won't have come as a very late decision from them. So, you know, I have a conscience, and if that tree fell and hurt someone, irrespective of whether we're liable, it doesn't come into being liable. My conscience would not let me live with myself if I made the wrong decision tonight and somebody suffered injury or worse because of that.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you. Councillor Markham, Brian.
Yes, Chair. Before the discussion tonight and reading the papers previously, I'd sort of thought in my mind, well, I don't vote for trees to be chopped down. And reading the report, I was concerned that previous occasions that there've been surveys done, independent surveys or commissioned by the property owners, that suggested that the tree was damaging the boundary wall, the retaining wall, and so on. And I thought, well, yeah, okay, so somebody wants rid of the tree because it's an inconvenience. However, hearing the report tonight, particularly, I'm reading the report from Jonathan Hazel. As Councillor Mary Markham said, Jonathan Hazel, our tree officers, do not recommend that trees with TPOs on them be chopped down. In fact, quite the opposite is the case. So I think I would support the offer. However, what is also important is when we're talking about a replacement tree, we're not talking about a sapling. We're talking about something that is substantial. I think is a standard tree about which are again quite expensive. I hope it's another horse chestnut, because actually this fungal disease, we've lost the horse chestnuts in Abingdon Park for that reason. Substantial tree. Don't forget, we've had to cut down trees in Abingdon Park for precisely the reason that we've got to cut this one down. It's a shame, but we have to go with it, I think.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you. Councillor King. Anna, did you have a comment? You finished the comment?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, obviously I'm deeply upset by us having to take the chestnut tree away if that's what's decided. Personally, myself, I would have agreed with Councillor Birch and would have liked to have seen ground reduction done in first instance, and then review it maybe in 12 months' time. But as everyone else has said, we can't risk public safety. I just really want to push that we do get a proper replacement tree there that's of equal value eventually, because it's not going to be equal value for hundreds of years. And they're my comments, really.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you very much. Was there anyone else? Did I miss anybody? No? Amazing. Nobody else?
I think that's everyone, Chair. Is Councillor
Thank you very much.
Chowdhury? Did he wish to speak? I'm not sure. No. Okay.
Thank
That's
you.
everyone.
Right. Well, we've thoroughly debated this, and thanks to the speakers who've been very passionate and made their points very well. But we are now coming to the point where the officer's recommendation is that we reluctantly, I would say, have to agree to having this tree removed. So I do need a proposition to that effect. Do I have a proposer? Councillor Botwood, Alan, yeah, thank you. A seconder?
Councillor Kilbyshaw's indicating.
Councillor Kilbyshaw, Sam, thank you. Right, okay, with reluctant hearts, committee, do we agree that we should follow the officer's recommendation and have this tree taken down? Please, show of hands.
6 hands indicating, Chair.
6 to, yeah, and against?
2, Chair.
2 against. Does that leave an abstention anywhere? No?
2 abstentions, Chair.
2 abstentions. So on the basis of that vote, this is, I say, reluctantly, that the committee's approved officer's recommendation for the removal of this chair. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, could I just thank all the committee for taking so much interest in this tree? I'd like to thank them on behalf of all the objectors.
Thank you very much, Penny. That's taken aboard. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Appreciate that. Right, I understand, Councillor Lane, that you will have to leave us. You did say that you'd have to go, and I understand now that we're coming on to items 12A, 12B, which are MPH applications. So I have to say good night to Councillor Botwood, Alan, and good night to Councillor Markham, Mary. Thank you for your parts you played on the previous applications. I wish you both good night and look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you very much.
Good night. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Alan. Thank you, Mary and Jamie. Right, committee, we come on now to the 2 MPH applications. Items 12A. 12A is on page 85 of your agenda. It's for location is at 1 Stonyhurst. It's the installation of a brick bin enclosure with drop curb adjacent to 1 to 23 Stonyhurst. Excuse me, Rita, this is your report. Would you like to present it, please?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. Right, some of the members may remember that a similar application came before you on the 12th of May. This is for the installation of a brick-built bin enclosure near Stonyhurst and the block of flats. So just show you, this is the application site, and the installation will be very near to the corner. So just an aerial photograph, as you can see where the block is and the road in front of that. The proposal is quite simple. Really, it's just a brick-built enclosure to accommodate 3 Euro bins to be used by the residents. On top of that, there will be a drop curb there, so as to ease the movement of the Euro bins. In terms of the size of the enclosure, it will be 2 meters in height, 5 meters in width, and 1.25 in wide. So just to show you the area, so the bin storage will be near to the roadside. So those are the block of flats you can see will be served by the structure. So apart from that, we have not received any objection from any residents. So will be a good facilities to serve the residents, and will be far away enough, will not obstruct or affect the flats really. So the recommendation, therefore, Chair, is for approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Rita. Committee, we have no speakers on this. Are there any questions to Rita? Are there any questions? Councillor Birch, Jane, yeah.
Rita, how close to the flats are those Eurobins? Because if people have got to walk across bits of grass, paths, you know, the rubbish will get scattered en route. So are they, you know, accessible and convenient for the residents?
To you, Chair, let me just go back to the plan. Can you see the photos or? No, sorry. I may have to. Can you see the plan or?
Yeah, see the plan.
Yeah, so see the plan. So this is the distance from that. Yes, the resident will have to come out to put it in there, but then in some way, if it's too close, it will be blocking the windows, and then obviously we don't want any you know, vermin or that sort of things to be there. So this is very similar to those 2 schemes previously approved by members about 2 committees ago. So the arrangements is very
similar.
Similar. Yeah.
Okay, right. Anyone else got any questions to possibly ask of Rita? No.
Nobody else indicating, Chair.
Thank you, Ed. Comments then, committee, any comments?
No one's indicating, Chair.
Thank you, Maisie. So the officer's recommendation, committee, is for approval of this brick bin enclosure. Do I have a proposal that I accept the officer's recommendation? Councillor Russell, Catherine, yeah, thank you. A seconder, please. Councillor King, Anna, thank you. Oh, Councillor Smith, sorry. Well, all those in favour that we accept the officer's recommendation?
7, Chair.
7, and have we got 7 with us? Is the 7 left with us now? I think so.
Yes.
That's unanimous.
That's unanimous.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for that. Right, we now come on to the last item, which is item 12B committee, which is page 89 on your agenda, which is the lock-up garages of Cardigan Close, and it's the variation of condition 2 of planning permission that was granted in 2019. Demolition of 18 domestic lock-up garages and construction of 2 new build units to amend units position. Anna, this is your report. Would you present it, please?
Thank you, Chair. So this is the application site. Committee last looked at it in June 2019. So it was 2 rows of garages that were locked off. There's an aerial view so you can see the 2 rows. The buildings join onto an existing row of bungalows. Just some photographs to show the existing layout. So these are the garages. As you can see, they were locked off. And this is the bungalows located just behind that I pointed out. So in June 2019, committee approved a pair of semi-detached bungalows that continued the row. So there's a gap, but it continues the row of bungalows. It's now proposed, the only alteration is to move the bungalows 3 metres towards Darlington Road, so 3 metres this way, just to move it. So the only change is that these bungalows have been moved further this way. The reason is because they found a sewer line under so it's had to be moved due to the easement. But the rest of the development is exactly the same as previously approved. So it's the same floor plan with a 1-bedroom bungalow with a wet room and then a living dining room. And the same elevations as previously approved. So again, trying to continue that appearance of the bungalows next door. So with the only change being the slight movement of the bungalows, the recommendation is for approval. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Anna. Committee, like 12A, there's no speakers on this one, so if any questions to Anna, if anybody's got one, Councillor Birch, Jane.
Can I suggest we accept the officer's recommendation?
You certainly can, as long as it's not denying anybody's democratic right. I'm quite prepared to go along with that, Jane. Do I have a seconder to Councillor Birch's proposal? Councillor Russell, Catherine, yeah? All those in favour, we accept the officer's recommendation?
Councillor Kilbyshaw wanted to speak, Chair, before you vote.
Oh, so, okay. Councillor Kilbyshaw, Sam, yeah, go on.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Sorry to interrupt. I'd just like to say I'm very happy that there's charging points now on these dwellings. And I know it's 1 per dwelling, but I think we could all agree that it would be best if it's 1 per space. But other than that, I'm very happy to approve this recommendation.
Thank you very much, Sam. Sorry for cutting across you or getting in front of you. So we'll go back again. We've got a proposition from Councillor Birch and a seconder from Councillor Russell that we accept the officer's recommendation. So committee, could I ask you for a show of hands again that we do that, please?
Unanimous, Chair.
Thank you, Maisie. Thank you very much, committee. So that's approved unanimously. And can I say, committee, there is no any special, what does it say? There's nothing any further to report. There's no exclusion of public and press. There's nothing, anything else. So it's up to me to say thank you all very, very much. It's been a long night. Officers and members alike, thank you. You've thoroughly debated it very well, and thank you all very much.